Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Rohith.
It's time yet again to explore the vast catalog and find out what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. And tonight, we're talking Echo. Yes, we're doing a spoilercast on Echo, which was debuted as a miniseries, all episodes all at once. I mean, across Hulu and Disney Plus at the top of this year. Believe this, I guess, the past week. So here we are. It's finally happened. Rohit, thoughts?
Overall, I think it was better than I expected it to be. Um, in the lead up to the show's release, I've heard reports, scoops, and murmurs of this project being a troubled production, of things having to be re-edited, and like it was originally going to be 6 episodes, had to be matched to 5, and there's concerns about even being released in the first place. I think ultimately the way the project turns out, it's not bad. It's not. I don't think this show represents the nadir, the worst of Marvel Studios, overall, or even in the streaming service programming. That I feel like is still a secret invasion in my view personally. As such, I think when the show works in it being very centered upon Maya's background and heritage and reconnecting with her roots. And when she's spending time with the likes of Biscuits and the moments with Bonnie and her grandmother, I think there were good. Those were great moments because that allowed the audience to really key in on Maya as a character, to have a sense of her personality, a sense of her struggle. And I think what I really appreciate about the show is that when went into the Native American heritage and the background for Maya's family or ancestral line, the show did a lot of unique directorial choices and flair that's distinctly different from the typical, MCU superhero streaming service show or and the formula that comes with it. And I really appreciate that. However, the pacing is not consistently well done. And as such, certain characters like Bonnie that I mentioned before aren't really as fleshed out as would like, which is a shame because the actress who plays Bonnie, Debbie Jacobs, I previously watched her on who FX's Reservation Dogs, which is also a very well done show about Native American culture and life. And so with this, I thought she would, be a significant part of the show or be a significant part for Maya. And I think for me, the most significant people in Maya was just Biscuits, the grandmother near the end, and consistently Maya's uncle Henry. And there's the Kingpin stuff. Um, I think for as much as people liked or were hyped about the Kingpin being coming to play, if there were more episodes and there was more of a fleshing out of the relationship between Maya and Kingpin, and also really something that wasn't really explained to me, why Kingpin killed Maya's father. There's certain things that aren't really explained or given much detail, and I think for the TVMA rating, it feels sort of a afterthought. In retrospect, like the moments where there's blood, where there's significant violence, didn't seem to be as intentional or as like harrowing as the violence was depicted in the Netflix shows. And I feel like if you take sort of the CGI blood or moments where there's a little bit more aggressiveness, I think the show would have fit tonally with the rest of the Disney Plus MCU shows. However, I think the good not fully overrides, but slightly outweighs the bad to where in the way the show ended, I came away with a much more positive experience and appreciation of what the show had to say and had to offer versus what I came out of from watching Marvel Secret Invasion. With the fact that I mentioned about the show's pacing, it makes sense for why it was released at once. If it was released on a weekly basis, I think people would have a lot of consternation and issues with the show. And I think watching as a whole, you get a more balanced experience with Maya's story. Ultimately, I think with where we end up the show, I'm interested to see more of Maya in the more street level projects. I don't think with the show's reception, it being relatively divided or mixed, that Echo's going to have a second season. But I think with the way the character ends off and how her name Echo is the origin of it in the show, I think it was really well done, um, in my view. And ultimately, if you're to watch the show, it's not the best of Marvel Studios. It's not the best of the Disney Plus shows, but it's not the worst. I think it's decent to almost above average. And so that's sort of my overall impressions of the show.
Yeah, so when this show was announced, they were doing this. I was very sold on Echo, just that of them doing like a mini series, or well, just in general, just doing a show after with the whole thing. Like we introduced her in Hawkeye, and of course with Echo comes the Kingpin, as you do with that character. So there's already like a lot of hype with just like her inclusion in Hawkeye, knowing it would kind of lead to that, and that's the thing. So just, I'm very interested in Echo because of the Daredevil connection, which very much paid off here. We seem to be easing back into the Daredevil stuff via Echo, but she I think the good thing about the show is that she doesn't get lost in her own show like Ahsoka did, which I mean thankfully we're getting a second season of Ahsoka, but like looking at that first season, assuming like when you look at that first brush and you think like okay that's we're getting one shot of Ahsoka and essentially make the Rebels show.
Mm-hmm.
There's Ahsoka here and there, and good stuff with Ahsoka here and there, and like she herself is good, but it's like, man, whose show is this? So I like that Echo very much is the driving force of her show, and very much she is she is tethered at the hip to Kingpin in many respects in a way that she should be. I see. I didn't get wind of any of the trouble production stuff, so I was able to go into this completely blind to that. Mind you, I was just I was very razor focused because, as you know, and I'm not saying like more than anyone else, but I'm obsessed with the MCU's take on Daredevil, and the Netflix take on Daredevil, everything about that. I'm obsessed. I'm dialed in. I keep saying like right now the salvation of the MCU resides, at least at this juncture, resides in Daredevil as well as Deadpool 3. Deadpool 3 being the lock, Daredevil being just like we got to go street level with it. We can't go keep going big. We got to go small, and the best way to go small is with Daredevil. So, looking at the show itself, I enjoyed it, but I feel there was one singular choice in this show really that did kind of take me out of it. It's like the main gripe that I have that I feel really takes a very straightforward conflict that I'm very invested in, that I think is the crux of the show, and it kind of pads things out, and it kind of adds like this almost mandated element of I I think it would have been better if without giving Echo powers or giving her like the literalization of the whole echoing, the whole Echo namesake. Because to me, and we'll get into this as we get into the conversation, to me, it comes out of nowhere. It's vague and it's convenient. And on the rewatch, I think I liked it less than I did the first watch. I do love how we presented this. I love the idea of Marvel Spotlight. I like the miniseries format for this. I like the idea of like like I think there was kind of like a nice flow. As I think from a marketing standpoint, I think it was a good move. I mean, between this and what we did with What If, I think we kind of need to shake things up like this. So again, overall, it's good, but it's very padded for a simple story on the rewatch. and it makes me on the rewatch. It makes me question like, why couldn't we do this in 90 minutes? And either that or doing what Rohit just suggested here of like, hey, there are things that we, as much as I'm loving the Kingpin stuff in this, there are a few things we really should have spent more time on, like the very core thing between the two of them, like, hey, you had my father killed. That's why I shot you. That does not get brought up at all until like the very end, where Kingpin basically confirms, like, yeah, that was me. That's about it. So that bothers me, but yeah. Anyway, let me. We should break down some comments here. One of the things we do kind of have to address at the top here. So a few things. One, Bonnie was Nahori. I think he means Kahori, right? Wasn't it
Yeah,
Kahori?
it's Kahori. Yes, Devery Jacobs voiced Kahori in What If Season 2 and
Mm-hmm.
played the character Bonnie in Echo.
Yes. Let's see. Uh, okay, Jacob in the comments then says it wasn't Netflix. Now here's the thing. I've heard rumors of this, and there are two things recent that sounds like this actually. It's sounding like it's confirmed, but I don't really trust anything until I see it with my own eyes. But we've had two things very recently that really do lend credence to. Yeah, we aside from the stuff we'll get into in the show, obviously. Besides those things, which we'll break down, there's some stuff I want to discuss there in episode one, let's say. But recently there was like yet another MCU timeline thing put out, and basically the Netflix shows were folded into it, which is good. And I mean, I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I can't really say like if it actually tracks or not. It sounds I think I've seen like them ordering it in the events of things, in which that does track so far. I just don't know like if there was anything else aside from just like a list of like this is when this happens when. Aside from that, I watched like some marketing stuff for Echo recently. I mean, just right before this, just refreshing myself in some Kingpin bits, and I saw Marvel Entertainment like officially put out like this trailer, and this trailer with the Kingpin footage they had all of the Netflix stuff in there. Now, mind you, this is because the whole there's Hulu and there's Disney Plus, and obviously the Netflix stuff is now on Disney Plus. So I at first glance, you would imagine that means okay, we have officially canonized stuff based on the stuff that we kind of see in this miniseries, and based on the fact that hey, that we are being sold that hey, all the stuff you're seeing with D'Onofrio is the same guy as we just show in this marketing here between seeing him and Daredevil and everything in there, and I don't know. It's sounding like we're going canonized, which is kind of a dream come true. But I have like this little bit of Charlie Brown kind of skepticism of like I don't know. There are a couple threads I'm pulling at because I just want them just to say it one way or another, and I know they're not going to like literally like say it, but I'm just saying there's like I'm looking for some irrefutable evidence just so like we can kind of put it to bed and say canonized or not canonized, and we'll break down some of the stuff we get here in episode one. I guess we'll see maybe where we're leaning, and again, I don't think we're really gonna. I knew we were going to have like a lot of information with. I think we're going to have a good sense of it with Echo, but I think we won't really have like true confirmation of this until Born Again to see where we stand on things. So it's a shame that we kind of still have to wait until we get there, but it's sounding like there's we're saying we're canonizing it. But yes, as
So to
Feige, come on.
respond to you, there was an interview with Brad Winterbaum.
Yep.
He was the producer. He was originally the head of Marvel Animation, and then was involved with the creation of What If with AC Bradley, and then has I think in the past few months been elevated to the role of being the head of Marvel Television. Basically the Disney Plus programming, and mentioned in an interview basically in no other words that like the Netflix shows are canon, and that like basically there'd be references, and I think the fact that with what the show had shown, that's pretty because I was of the opinion that when the Netflix Marvel characters be brought in to Disney Plus and by extension just the regular theatrical MCU, that Feige and company would pick and choose which continuity of the shows they would adhere to and did not follow, because I would assume that Feige, since some time has passed, and maybe they want to put their own stamp on the character, or they want
Basically, it's the same world, but 8 years or so have gone by, and we're in a new status quo with them, but same universe, right?
yeah, pretty much.
I too. So, right. It sounds like we're simpatico on that. Also, the Code Geass's point in the comments here, he says the Netflix shows reference events from the MCU films. So, Code Geass, you're absolutely that's always the presumption that's the thing with Feige and the whole like is it canon, is it not thing is always kind of bothering me because yes, in kind of a weird it's kind of a weird personal way of putting it, but it's like the Netflix shows played by the rules, and it feels like for a while we shafted them. Just where it's like, you know what? They reference the movies, they played in the sandbox, they follow the rules of like, okay, look, you can reference us, which is we can't necessarily reference you until the time is right. It's the promise of maybe one day ideally one day we'll fold you in, but in the meantime, just like they referenced they reflected the MCU in really nice ways that didn't get in the way of the stories they were telling, but definitely as far as I was concerned, as far as we were all concerned back then, it's like those are absolutely set in the MCU, but in a side of the MCU we really don't see because it's very street level. And yeah, that's the thing. It's so easy to yes, we can absolutely canonize these, and just it's a post blip world. Time has passed, and that's kind of our way of like, okay, so if things have changed, it's because time's passed, and so is the blip. So it's like an added 5 years on top of the time since the last time we've seen, which is roughly 2018 or so,
Yeah.
roughly. And then they have like the whole timeline thing of like Daredevil starts like right after New York, so well, I mean,
Well, I think part of it's like at least the shows were generally released within were generally within the year of the release, seasons wise, if not a year before. And considering majority of the seasons took place at like post 2015, which is when the Avengers moved from Avengers Tower to Avengers Compound upstate New York. Um, with the way those shows are very like insular, doesn't really make a broad references. It's kind of it really like it all kind of works out by
yeah.
itself with sort of the mainline canon of the MCU.
Which was a charm of it, of like, okay, well, we haven't broken any rules, we haven't really conflicted with anything, so yeah, we've been really clever about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so again, I think the majority of any of that talk's probably going to be in episode 1. So I guess we should probably just transition to it. Let's get things rolling and see what comes up. Okay, episode 1, Chuffa.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be confused with Bruce Willis, that's Chuffa, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so very solid start. I like. I think for me, episodes 1 and 4 are my go-tos, particularly 4, but we'll get there. Episode 1, it's very solid start. It reintroduces, the Maya and her backstory and everything. We kind of flesh it out a little bit, and we kind of catch people up if they have not seen Hawkeye.
I had issues with this episode using a lot of like old footage from Hawkeye, because I get that maybe not many people have watched Hawkeye, or it's been a while, but like,
I mean, doesn't it feel a little better than kind of how the whole Book of Boba Fett situation to you? Either it's having like the little here's what happened on Hawkeye at the little recap that's built into the thing at the top, or just doing the thing like, well, we're not going to know, and then we're just going to jump into Mando, season 3 without that Boba Fett episode.
I don't know, because I feel like I would prefer the Boba Fett option, because then it's like, okay, here's the recap, blah blah blah. Or I wish like maybe Marvel Studios could, because like, so on Disney Plus there is this like quote unquote show, and I'm putting and this is
You mean the Marvel Legends thing, don't you?
yeah, I feel like they could have done something like that for Echo.
Well, yeah, but no one's going to watch that though,
or
unfortunately.
they'll make that release it and then and have it be like the tag at the beginning of the episode, and then you go into the main Echo story. Because once you go to the main Echo story, it's like, okay, like this is really interesting, stuff. It's like,
Let me meet you halfway. I admit when I look at it, and I heard in passing afterwards, like the whole editing. After I finished the show, I heard the editing thing. When I look back on the episode, like, yeah, I can see the choppy editing if you really look at it. But still, though, I mean, I like the idea of like, okay, so we everything you need to know is in episode 1 in relation to her story, even though if we are using scenes from Hawkeye. Because I mean, in a way, it is kind of economical with the budget here. Like, okay, so we're going to get all the cameos out of the way in episode 1, so we don't have to do the thing we've done all the other shows where it's like, oh boy, who are they going to bring in? And when they bring it in, it's going to, ideally, it's going to be great, or it's going to be shortly people can gripe it. We got it all out of the way up front. We had little Jeremy Renner, and obviously we have the other cameo, which we'll get to. And it's like, I don't know, I thought it was economical that way, and in a way, just kind of laid it out there. Like, here's what you need to know, we can move on. Like everyone's hooked in. Okay, we're in the MCU, and now we're focusing on my story, which will then kind of like go from there.
I think the way it was just, I think the way it was brought in, just like, oh, it just felt like it was kind of like it was kind of padding out the runtime of the first episode. And I think once you get after, once you go away from the Hawkeye footage stuff, it's like that's where like the pacing, while not being that great, it gets better because I feel like with the archival footage, it would make more sense if like the footage of Hawkeye was utilized as like flashbacks, and Maya was like going through like this regular footage of Maya going through stuff, and there's certain things or moments that make her reflect, and then you get the Hawkeye like footage.
Mm.
Because then at that point you're taking what was previously established and give a level of subjectivity, because then the Hawkeye footage is recontextualized as Maya's experience in Hawkeye, and like with especially with like the Clint and Maya scene where he says like you and I both alike, we're filled with rage. That would have been even more poignant. Like after like scenes where we see like Wilson's Fisk shows his rage
Hmm.
at the ice cream vendor, and Maya not being horrified, she also has her own rage in kicking that ice cream vendor.
Right. I mean, look, I'm not opposed to what you're suggesting. It actually might have been good, but I don't know. Maybe that's just kind of due to the editing situation, because it does feel like we are missing. Remember, when we do 5 months later, she's been shot at, and people have been coming after him. We just kind of sidestepped all of that. Like, what exactly? I think there is an issue. I don't know if it's just because of the editing or in the storytelling here. There is an issue in getting a grasp on what she wants. We say what she wants, but it's kind of a question of like, why does she still want that? It's a lot of that is me kind of doing the mental, kind of the mental gymnastics of like, okay, so again, she's been kind of raised by the kingpin. She would feel entitled to this, but there is like a lot of things of okay, so presumably she, as far as she's concerned, the kingpin is dead. However, Henry would absolutely know the kingpin is alive or not because someone's running the organization. You would imagine he would. But let me backtrack a little before we get into all the logistics there. So for me, what's really padded in this whole show, I think the first episode has it to the least degree, but as we go forward, making it kind of a running device. So the Choctaw flashback openings for the first 3 episodes. Basically, each episode, all 5 episodes open with a flashback. The first three have this device where that pays off nicely in the end as to why we did this, but it doesn't really help the pacing where we have these really out of left field, like these essentially the Choctaw flashbacks of her female ancestors that are again the echoes of her past, and again the whole payoff of them being echoes of the past. That's not bad. That's fine, but I just feel like making it a literal like descendancy power that she has. I know it's the whole power thing is apparently it's a nod to like something that was done with her recently in the comics where I think it's like an X-Men Connect thing, or at the very least it's something. It's not. I forget. I think she in the comics she has possession of the Phoenix Force, and I think this is maybe a subtle nod to the Phoenix Force. I think.
Well, I think if I were to explain, so for what I remember reading or hearing about that, it's like I think the context was that like she gets chosen like the by the Phoenix
Mhm.
Force, and I think uh yeah, there's no, I'm looking at the description, there's really not much mention of any like powers or heritage or memories going like Assassin's Creed style
Yeah.
like genetic line. I
I
I think this was just I think this was just the original idea for MCU Echo, and I think why Echo has this kind of power set versus her traditional power set of having like bodily mimicry, like photograph
mhm.
reflexes, like Taskmaster, is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they probably didn't want to have like another like a character with a similar power set.
Well, they dropped the ball with Taskmaster. They could do it better with her.
Two, I mean, Taskmaster is going to be in Thunderbolts, and maybe in their view, they're going to do more stuff with that character. And whether that be closer to what you would want out of Taskmaster or be something different that would still be appreciated in its own right. And I think part of it on the logistical level, it's like whoever is like the stun double for Alaka Cox, you you would have to make sure that that stun double will be able to do like really good body mimicry of like whoever they're mimicking, right? And like Maya doesn't have like face coverings; it's just her face, so you
Mm.
have to kind of shoot from the back. Whereas for Taskmaster, because it's a full body suit, you can kind of fill in like any type of stun double, so long as they're
Well,
generally.
I'm not even saying they have to necessarily do the Taskmaster thing. I know it's like traditionally her thing. The idea she's a really good fighter anyway is slice it, and because of the whole she's looking at people, she can really get the mimicry and the abilities. But it's not like saying that away. It's just literally like we went out of our way to give her something just that's just kind of like vaguely similar to that, and it feels like she needs to be connected to her Native American roots. It was like, well, look, if you want to do an artful opening that's kind of like threading the needle on that, I mean, you can do that, but let's it just feels like we went our way to like, hey, we gotta juice her up a little. We gotta give her powers. We gotta
Yeah,
just
no,
add this mystical element
I,
to this very grounded, simple, essentially a revenge show of sort. Not maybe revenge show is the wrong word, but like essentially we gotta for this very simple like, okay, the story between her and the kingpin that in which her family does kind of like lead into that. It's like,
yeah.
why do we have to give her a power? Why do we have to make it so that? Why can't we just trust the audience is smart enough to understand like, okay, the echoes of the past things? Like, no, we have to make sure that we have to take the subtlety out of it.
Well, because the thing is that like Echo is like I mean, because I feel like the audience would, because I feel like for Marvel was like, well, the audience will ask the question like, well, why is it called Echo, right? She doesn't come up with the name. It isn't like so.
She could
I
just
feel like
learn about her past while she's in town. There's the echo thing.
I
She
I
can't hear, but she's learning about the past. So it's an echo. I don't know. It's
well, because it wouldn't be an exact. I get. Here's the thing though, like for her past to Echo or her her history to Echo, it would be like, oh, like the things that were encountered by her predecessors or issues facing that, like that Maya and her community are facing now.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like that would be interesting, but that isn't necessarily what the show is about. The show is very like personal, and it's a revenge story.
Well,
So
even worst case, they don't even have to include it. Like we don't need like to dedicate so much time to like these extended flashbacks if they don't relate to the narrative. I wish they'd pick a lane. It's
no,
like
no, no. They so that's what I would here's sort of my thing. I feel like the best solution if you were to tie these two is that so for Maya, she's echoing in that she can access her not she doesn't have powers in the sense like glowing hands, but she can mentally, how like if you I don't know if you played the Assassin's Creed games or know the idea of like a person gets into a machine, they're able to access like prior memories of prior ancestors and
mhm.
experience the skills, all that stuff. So in this sense, you could kind of have Maya doing the body mimicry, like Taskmaster stuff, but she's mimicking the move set of her ancestors, which is which I feel like would be much better because it would tie back to the comics. And two, considering what we saw with the prior ancestors, what they did a lot, like especially the second and third episode with her with those specific ancestors, they were doing a lot of physical stuff, and it'd been so cool for like Maya to like um listen, at the end she used the gun, and I feel like it would be cool for Maya to like just use her like the skills that her native ancestor used to beat like Kingpin and his men.
Yeah.
And that would have been
But we gave her the shortcut. She magically could remember it.
yeah, it's like it took sort of
And not just her. No, no. Well, I'm sorry. We'll get there. I'm jumping ahead.
and it took like it amped up the mysticism to where like she's basically like Native American Iron Fist in a way.
Yeah.
And that I don't think like it should have been more like in because the Native American culture and when you talk to Native American people, they talk about how their ancestors lived through them, and like what you would wherever you move around in life, your ancestors are with you, like their presence with you. So it would have made sense for her to like done the things that her ancestors have done, and because she's connected with them, she's able to do those things, and that's the power of legacy and heritage echoing through time.
I guess you know what. I guess here's what it is for me, Rohit. Okay, boiled down, the only flashback we kind of needed in terms of like the ancestry was the original because that gives her like the seedling of okay, Echo. Her essentially her arc is she at the end of this episode she has she wants to be Queen Pin. Again she's very much she's kind of she's at risk of following the footsteps of the Kingpin, or at the very least, she's kind of she's coming from a bad place initially that she's working her way to like either anti-hero status or heroic status, like this, like the first, like Chafa, essentially, the first, basically the first Native American hero in her bloodline.
Mhm.
So I mean, the idea of like opening there is an inspired idea, and it's like it was a thing I was not expecting when I saw the show, and I was wrapping my head around it. But like when we cut to like the little like them her sorry, when we cut to Bonnie telling her the story, it's like okay, that's not bad. That's like this is a big memory for her with with Bonnie, and they're in a very hugely impactful night in her life, and it kind of gives
And
her something like a kind of thing to go back to. But here's I guess what I'm getting at is that it feels like the show is operating with the Native American stuff. I feel the show is at its best. Where it's like again, we're learning like just the modern day Native American kind of culture, as well as just like her family and connection to it, versus like the history of the Choctaw people, versus just like let's see them today and how they kind of deal with life from day to day, versus like we have to have the history lesson, or we have to like see things that really don't relate to the story at all in the grand scheme of things here. Aside from like aside from this first one, and even then, this first one goes on a little long. That's what I'm saying. Like this is where all the padding's coming from. It's like we could have done so many other things plot wise when we're dedicating like the opening, like the opening 5 to 10 minutes. Well, I'm sorry, not 10 minutes. Like the opening 5 minutes to this stuff.
yeah, I think for where you're getting at is that you would have probably wished that the flashbacks and the modern day stuff could have paralleled, quote unquote, echoed of with one another, and then Maya's arc would just be going from a revenge mindset to being a community oriented mindset.
Yeah, I mean, her
Looking back to the
family is
past.
much more
Yeah,
interesting to me than like learning about her ancestry.
yeah, but the ancestry could be mixed in better to where the solutions and like to the family's problems is
Yeah,
looking towards the past and honoring said past and creating a new future, a better
yeah.
future. Now that I get what you mean by that.
It's like
Um,
it should have a bigger impact at the end when we see like the five basically our 5 episode titles standing in a line together. It should mean something when really it's
yeah,
kind of hollow.
and I feel like for me another sort of thing is that like because Echo or Maya is so isolated throughout most of the show,
Hmm.
I feel like the ancestry flashbacks because it's all women, it would have been so impactful for Maya to have like a more developed and more present relationship with both Bonnie and her grandmother.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Making the grandmother being very cutting her out of the life and everything, that does kind of limit
Yeah,
certain story opportunities until they have to collide. And again, what is essentially to me the best episode of the season.
yeah, and I
Which again it takes us that long to get there.
and I feel like they should have been more present with Maya. They should have been challenging Maya's purpose or desire for her to be the queen pin.
Yeah,
I think the fact that Maya was basically after her father was secretly killed by like a white crime boss, and he's basically like his surrogate daughter, and how violent she is. It's crazy that like no one ever brings up sort of the implications like
mm.
racially, and is like what is like, and her wanting to be the queen, this like crime boss.
Is that Disney Plus playing scared though? You think, or is that just them not really
I
developing?
mean, if they were to the fact that they tackled racial issues to the degree that they did in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
Yeah,
and also like, and
Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel covered that a little bit. The whole Islamophobia thing.
yeah, and so like I think for Echo, it would have been very interesting. Like the fact that she is very openly like an anti-hero from the start, I think it would have been interesting for Bonnie and her grandmother to be involved and really challenge her. Because I think for Echo, the fact that she's kind of doing her thing and she gets some like pushback from Biscuits to a certain extent, and more so her uncle Henry, I think it would have been so resonant for her to really think like, oh, all this like bloodlust and desire to put back. I'm just like even though I hate Kingpin, even though I hate what he's done and taking my father away, the means and the desire like to get back at him. It's just it's just what he's taught me. I like it's kind of you can't use the tools of the oppressor to defeat said oppressor, and I think like and it's sort of it's usually like Maya kind of like there's sort of a two parallels I noticed.
It,
One,
it is really weird. And I'm sorry, you just brought it up, and it's a really good point. It is really weird that all of her best connections in the show are all men, and we keep saying like it's very important the female descendancy, and she has no time at all
no, and
for these
specifically
things.
the fact that like so in Native American cultures like like the women the matriarch is really important.
Yeah,
And specifically because like there's an emphasis about healing, about community and togetherness and being in tune to nature, rather than to be like violent and being against like aggressive. And I feel like that would have been the two parallels that come to mind. So when you talk about the flashbacks, opening of the flashbacks and the historical background, like Echo kind of just parallels with how Shang-Chi and Black Panthers both started, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, like starting in the past with a specific ethnic group, and how that kind of reverberates in modern day. And second, Echo at the beginning of the show is very kind of like Killmonger, that she has been taught sort of the ways of violence from an outside like ethnic group or background, and in what what's been taken away from her by said like outsider dominant group, she wants to get back at them by using the means and tools and ways of going about it that she learned from the dominant group. And that was, I think, I feel like that's such an interesting idea of having Maya be in this kind of role, and I wish Bonnie and the grandmother were prominent, and I feel like there should have been, not literally, but should have been a come to Jesus moment where maybe Maya goes too far and get hurts Bonnie in the process. Rather than Bonnie be in danger, maybe like Maya wants to hurt someone, but Bonnie's like a firefighter or a paramedic. She's
well,
like
she's a paramedic.
she's a paramedic, so she's in a role to help people, and maybe like she tries to like save someone, a criminal, someone who did a bad thing, and Maya like is resistant or even hurts Bonnie in the process, and that's like I feel like there should have been something where like Maya should have realized like, oh, I went too far, and there's not really that specific kind of moment. It's like it feels like they wanted Maya to be in that role. It was kind of a cool badass way, and then didn't go far with the implications of indicting Maya for her actions or the belief system that undergirds its actions.
Yeah. All right. I guess. Okay, maybe we just to get it out of the way, so we can just kind of broach it all here. Okay, let's. I guess we should start breaking down the Daredevil stuff. So, first, sorry. Let me just to keep it on point. Let me breach that through the Maya stuff, which will lead us to Daredevil here. So I love the parallels to Daredevil and Maya's story. From basically after the whole Choctaw opening onward, where we get her backstory, which I do like. There's some subtle, like there's some light parallels to Matt Murdock's story, which I found really interesting. Where, she's impaired. There's an accident. There's Willie, her father. There's a lot of Jack Murdock in him. The whole thing, he doesn't want her to fight and do what he does necessarily. Wants better things for her. There's very solid stuff done with the family and and some realistic aftermath of the tragedy, like that scene in the hospital. It's very heartbreaking, very very well acted, and I noticed that we did repurpose some deleted scenes from Hawkeye, the two big Kingpin scenes, which one was like him offering to get her ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting. We had a bit where we kind of cut away from Kim, but we heard his voice, so they kind of recontextualized some of those scenes in a fun way. So I think as I said, well, for me, I thought we used, we wisely kind of got the cameo thing out of the way, in which we had using the Hawkeye clip anyway. However, we got it, which obviously here was more linear than it was like kind of a flashback thing, which might be more interesting. We still got the whole Ronin scene, which is important, and like him directing her to the Kingpin. So we kind of got the hook out of the way there. So the big scene where Kingpin's on literally on the scene there. He shows up. So Kingpin's looking after Maya after Ronan killed her father. Of course, he sent Ronan there, but after Ronan killed her father, in reality, by Kingpin's hand, fascinating. It's fascinating, just the fact that he does genuinely love this kid. It seems, the fact that Kingpin does have. He sees an opportunity in her, but by the same token, though, it's this thing of like the closest thing he can have to love is like love through this really twisted turn of fate by his own hand. Of like, it does make, again. Unfortunately, we don't have the answers to these questions. Like, did he in part did he have Willie killed so he could kind of adopt the kid? Did he just do it because it was like a business thing, but he felt responsible for the girl?
Well, I just think just on a broader macro view, there is kind of some messed up like colonial imperialistic kind of things because
Mm-hmm.
like of like set of like native children being taken away from their like homes
Mm-hmm.
and being brought into boarding schools. I think back to you seen the Mark Rousseau, right, with Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
In the opening, like the villain just takes the kid away and like leaves the thought like Anthony Hopkins' character, the OG Zorro, to rot in prison. Um, that's kind of like Kingpin is often in the Netflix Marvels, like he is a guy who be like I think Vincent D'Onofrio had this quote that like he summarized Kingpin in 3 words: monster and child.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think with him taking Maya under his wing, he probably, in his view, and I feel like maybe some of these could have been an interesting parallel. Obviously, you couldn't have like the young, like it would be interesting to see that like when Kingpin sees Maya in certain instances, he sees the little like Maya's little kid. To
Yeah.
how in certain scenes in the first season of Netflix Daredevil, he sees himself as the younger kid in like reflections and all that stuff. And I think there is something interesting to be said about like how both Kingpin and Maya are children that are inoculated and are
I think he absolutely respects the girl. I think he absolutely respects her as a little girl, which I think is just really a really endearing quality of the Kingpin to me.
he respects her, but at the same time, the show makes this point. I appreciate the show makes this point. It's like he respects her, but doesn't love her enough to make the extra effort to understand or be at her level. The fact that he like didn't really know much sign language.
Okay, now that's something we got to talk about,
Sure.
unfortunately. Okay, so there was one really, it really bothers me because I love that scene, I love that point, but there's one glaring issue with this whole show. With that, it doesn't line up with Hawkeye. Okay, because we saw the Kingpin do so, even in the clip that we used in in like the recap of Kingpin getting shot. Okay, he signed. He knew he did. He made an effort to sign, and it apparently was like, I mean, look, I don't know ASL, but I mean, they had the subtitles and everything when he did that in the scene, so it's like he did know some sign language, and we added the whole interpreter thing for this show, which he did not have in Hawkeye in the episode
Did,
that he appeared in.
did he
That
sign?
doesn't line.
Did he sign at the end when Maya confronts him like on the street or no?
In two scenes. He was
That's
signing to
true.
her in
Okay,
two
that's right.
conversation
That's
scenes,
right.
which doesn't line up at all, which is what drove me crazy when I was watching the show. Like, I love what they're doing here, but that doesn't line up at all with what we
Yeah.
saw.
So
Especially literally when the whole we don't see, and they cut out a line, by the way, when he said we don't see eye to eye, they cut out the eye to eye line.
yeah, I think no, I get what you mean. I think the best
Because that's
way
a big deal. That's a big scene.
so the best way to reconcile those two, in my view, is that like maybe he learns like a few phrases, but it could be like I think this is kind of where in retrospect like Marvel, whether through
I think it
Feige
was a production thing. I think for
it, it,
some stupid reason they're not watching these shows before they.
or like there's not, or maybe they in retrospect, well, the only way I could reconcile is that like it could be the case that Kingpin doesn't know as much ASL at like those maybe those are maybe there's a few words, or maybe it could be like that's I when you pointed that out, I can totally understand, and that's something that maybe the show could have done a better effort of. Like, it could have been the thing that I feel like the way, in retrospect, had they just had, maybe like Kingpin like half sign and half talk, and then either Maya read his lips or have like Kazi like sign for Kingpin,
Mm,
that might have been a bit better, because then it's like,
yeah.
okay, he knows as much sign language as like the person who took Spanish in high school knows like enough words to order at a restaurant, or ask where the bathroom is. But
I guess.
which, yeah, I mean, I'll admittedly, it's a lukewarm
I mean, that's the only way it possibly still lines up, but it's still a bit of a stretch. Because I
yeah,
mean, that's him making an effort, though. That's what's the problem. Even if it's not, even if it's like still like high school Spanish. That he made an effort.
yeah, it could, yeah, I just feel like, also, like, honest, but also another way is that it could have been interesting if maybe like when Kingpin reconnects with Maya, and he doesn't do sign language with her, and but he does sign language with in the flashbacks, and that would have been interesting to say that, like, Kingpin is kind of self isolating from Maya, and not willing to do sign language because maybe he still has resentment, or maybe he tries to sign at Maya, but Maya doesn't reciprocate. She's just like stone face. Like, there could have been some interesting like ways of communicating and not communicating. But yeah, that's an inconsistency that like, yeah, it's I now no I distinctly remember that, like, Kingpin doing the signing when he sees Maya, and like, after he sees Kate Bishop's mom, and then when Kingpin sees Maya again at the end. So yeah, that's a we I don't know if that's just like it seems like now we're in the comic book stage of just like automatic retcons.
Yeah. So speaking of which, okay, so let's a lot of people, it seems like they really want us to talk about a lot of the some of the canon stuff here. So we again, episode one's where we're going to have the majority of that. So we should get into it here. So the big question of the Daredevil canon. Here's the evidence that's presented to us in the episode. Okay, here's what we just can like judge for ourselves and see what lines up here. So here's the thing. I can't say it's 100% like clear cut evidence to it being canon, but the whole question of canon versus like the whole soft reboot via multiverse kind of thing, where basically it's their excuse, like we can basically do our take on the Netflix stuff and use as much as we can, but some things we might just have to let lie. First thing, so Maya lost her mom in like '07. We do the flashback with the ice cream scene in '08. So that's Iron Man's taking place now. Again, these are things I'd have to go back with a fine tooth comb to be 100% certain, but even so, that'd be a whole thing. Like, did they do their homework? Kingpin is in this flashback in 2000. He's boss and he's wearing the white suit. And it's two things to bear in mind here. One, in Daredevil season one, the implication was that Kingpin recently took over Rigoletto's operations. The whole "we don't say his name" thing. Now we don't know how long that's been going on for. To be fair, and I'm not sure if they ever explicitly said that, because all we know is Rigoletto was Kingpin's predecessor in the organization. He worked his way up to being boss.
Mhm.
So we don't know how long a process that took. So I mean, that one's like, I'm just saying that was an assumption. That's there. It sounds like there's a lot of stuff there's some wiggle room for. Like, the other thing for me is always a wardrobe thing, because I always loved the color usage in the original Daredevil series. And here, the wardrobe is, we want Kingpin in the iconic suit, so he is in the white suit in these flashbacks with her, and just all over the place. And in Daredevil, we built up to the white suit. We
Mhm.
built up to it, but it is entirely possible. Melvin Potter could have just made him the white suit. He didn't really have the confidence to wear it.
Or
It's
maybe
possible.
more with the fact that it gets blood on easily. Probably
Yeah.
black is just easier to clean off.
So it's, as I'm saying, it's possible he had that suit. We don't know if it's bulletproof or not, because nothing really had happened. He just gets stained. He doesn't really get like cut up or anything or shot at. So the point being, it's possible he had he has the white suits. He just didn't wear them until season three. So that's just another thing to bear in mind. But I'm saying, if you want to really, as I'm saying, they're walking a fine line. This is why it's kind of hard to tell one way or another. But um, let's see. So as far as Vanessa goes, people are really talking about Vanessa here.
So
My
I'm gonna clarify something. So I feel like there's some misremembering what happened at the end of season 3. What happened in season 3 of Daredevil was that the deal between Daredevil and Fisk was, hey, you don't reveal my identity and put Foggy and Karen in harm's way.
Well, no, you don't come after Karen Foggy or reveal my secret.
Yeah, or reveal my secret, and then I won't bring your wife in for the murder of Ray Nadeem.
Yeah, that's
That's
exactly what it
that's
was.
the
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, that is what the deal was.
Yeah, because people were thinking like, oh, like Daredevil wouldn't go after Kingpin so long as Vanessa's alive. No, so long as Vanessa's alive, Daredevil has a chip to like go after her.
The
And
implication, though, is if anything happens to Vanessa, Kingpin, he'll be, he'll have nothing really to hold back on, really.
yeah, so I think they were probably thinking about like, well, why does Daredevil come into play? No, Daredevil Kingpin can still fight each other and can still go like good guy versus bad guy stuff, but they don't bring in their loved ones. In this case, for Daredevil, Karen Foggy, and for case for Fisk, Vanessa.
Now, there is a question to bear in mind, though, with Vanessa. That is really interesting, though. A lot of people will be wondering, I think very, very logically, where the heck's Vanessa in all this?
She's in the Echo flashbacks.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So here's my theory. Here is my theory. I did somewhat of my math is not my strong suit, but I did an accounting of the years and stuff. So the rough approximation is this, roughly. He raised Maya until, let's say, age 18. When she was a little more on her own, she would stop by for the Sunday dinners and everything, probably still. But again, all the Maya flashbacks and everything, that takes place before Daredevil season 1. When she's a little girl growing up, let's just say to age 18. So that's before he met Vanessa, and then basically there's that loneliness is still probably there, and that's then he meets Vanessa, and that's probably how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he meets Vanessa until after Maya's grown up. That is my take on. I think that's the years essentially line up on that.
Yeah,
so
because her dad's around, like her dad's with her, and then he dies like in between 2018 and 2023.
Well, yes. Well, actually, wait, no. Oh, yeah. Sorry, no, you're right. Yes, you're right. My apologies.
Yes, and then Kingpin reconnects back. Either reconnects. I mean, it's probably the case that like Kingpin is involved just as an uncle figure. And
they're seeing each other on Sundays when she's grown up, like
yes,
when she's grown up. So.
Yeah, and then
he raised her in a. I'm sorry, go on.
And then probably when she was of age, she just kind of like maybe was off doing her own thing for her dad. And then when her dad died, then like Kingpin and Mai got much more closer. Maybe is your theory that like Vanessa got blipped from 2018 to 2023?
Well, something. Well, we do have something confirmed there. When Daredevil shows up, that is during the blip. Yes. So Daredevil and Kingpin, as I theorized, they did not get blipped.
Correct.
As Hawkeye kind of essentially confirms, like, well, Kingpin's probably been in operation during the blip, so that's probably what happened there. Mm-hmm. So that is something that's kind of neat to confirm. My theory, as you know, has always been that Vanessa got blipped, and maybe that reignited, Kingpin and Daredevil kind of doing their little dance. During things. That was kind of like between season 3 and where we're at now. Presumably, like Vanessa going. I would like to think Vanessa with child blipped, and that really set Kingpin off the deep end. It's a guess, but again, we don't know. That's the thing. So unfortunately we did recast Vanessa, but not by like we didn't want the other actress because she was busy. It was like that's the only reason that happened, which of course is leading the whole thing like reboot or no reboot. It's more like a Don Cheadle kind of situation where we couldn't get the other guy, so we got this guy. So but some people are wondering like, are we going to kill her off? Because seemingly it's a little premature, but seemingly Foggy and Karen are back at least for a brief bit.
So there's some happy news. Marvel Studios has changed its decision, and they're now bringing back both Karen and Foggy.
Yes, which is great. I don't know for how long though, but they will be back.
I would hope.
I heard it was just going to be for one episode. That's what I heard.
I mean, considering what was originally going to happen with them, that's a pretty good step up.
It is. I'm hoping that's just them like covering the base. It might be for one episode, and maybe they're going to put them in more, which would be a smart move. But we'll see.
Yeah, I bet like if they're not in as much of the show, maybe Marvel's trying to see how do people react with the supporting cast they have for Matt, And if people are wanting, we want Karen Foggy back, they're probably going to bring them back for the next, season or version of Daredevil.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, from the sounds of things, like we're gonna have Punisher in there. I think if they're smart, they're gonna maybe Jessica Jones. So, like, by that logic, we might have like kind of it might not just be like, okay, we're lacking Fog and Karen, but like no, we have Fog and Karen, and all these other characters might be popping in from here to
So,
here as far as story
so
goes.
here's a fun fact. Or well, what fun fact? Well, this is just what I heard. So originally there was murmurs about how the way Echo had originally ended and led into Daredevil Born Again was that Echo could have linked up or with Jessica Jones, or Daredevil would have shown up more in this show, and he would have been on the hunt to try to look for Jessica Jones, and that would have been something that would followed up on in Daredevil Born Again. And then I heard that was changed to Punisher, and then now it's changed to where there's not really much of any ties to the Defender side of things beyond just Kingpin being the main threat for the show, and then Daredevil being, showing up in the first episode.
I still think it was such a missed opportunity. Jessica Jones should have shown up like in an episode of She-Hulk. She really should have, and she didn't.
I mean, they're on different coast.
I know, yeah, I know that you're right. I know it makes, but so we moved Daredevil there temporarily. I don't know. It's
Well, Daredevil, like in the comics, moved to San Francisco. She-Hulk's based in L.A.
Well, we said that he was like there for just for Jacobs picking up the suit. That's the only reason why he was in town. He usually is in New York. We did mention that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so let's try to refocus a bit here. So again, the point being, we covered the canon thing. Right now, it's looking like we are saying Netflix stuff is in canon, but again, I really want some. Maybe it's a little more concrete I'm so hesitant to throw the confetti in the air, and I really want to. I'm a little hesitant to do so. But something we got to talk about, though, whether canon or no canon, they're doing stuff in reverence for the Daredevil show, because the big standout scene of episode 1 that made me giddy as a schoolboy was that Wonder fight. So one, already an amazing scene with Echo. It's her first assignment. Kingpin's like Foundry's giving her some direction, like putting her on an assignment. She kills her first person. It's a really well done fight scene, all in one shot, like we would do the hallway scenes in Netflix stuff. And then just when you think, okay, this is already really good, we're doing kind of in tribute to Daredevil. I was not spoiled on this at all, like how this is going to go down. So I had such a great experience. That Billy Club showed up, and I was like, oh god.
Yeah, that fight scene was so well done, and I appreciated that, like, the way it ended. It wasn't like Echo just like outright defeated like Daredevil.
She held her own and then pressed Kingpin. That's all we needed.
Yeah, and but it wasn't, but Daredevil just only got got jumped in by another guy, and Echo just kind of escaped.
Yeah.
So at the very least, like, it wasn't a thing where it's like, oh, like the first fight between these two and Echo just soundly beat it. It was like a close match, and it's only just by the skin of her teeth that Echo was able to evade.
Yeah, exactly, which is great. That's all we needed, and I was so thrilled with that.
Mm-hmm.
So also the big thing, he's in the red suit, and apparently like a refurbished version of the red suit. Now, the one thing we got to talk about there is that, so any way you slice it, we're saying that he goes from the red suit, because that's in the past. He goes from the red suit to the yellow and red. That's what we're saying with that scene. I mean, admittedly, my hope was that we were gonna go from he was in the black suit at the end of season 3. Then he would go to rebrand a little bit with the yellow and red. Then we give him the red suit with the D's on it. That's what my hope was. So certainly, we're not quite doing that here. So
until episode 18 of Born Again.
Yep. I love the red. I love the Netflix series. It's like the one thing. Just give them the D's. That's all we're missing. Just give them the D's, man.
I mean, Matt's giving the D to a lot of women. You know what I mean?
Oh, come on, bro. Well, to She-Hulk, he's giving the D to the green.
It's called Christmas Came in July.
Oh, come on, that's too far. All right, that's. Anyway. Okay, refocusing here. The point being, though, it's an interesting choice, though, that we put him in the basically the red suit. Then we're going from that to the yellow and red, and then I guess maybe fingers crossed we'll put him in the red with the D's on it. Either way, it was great to see him in the red suit and having a really good fight scene, and ultimately it does serve her plot in that he's impressed and essentially bumps her up to running the tracksuit mafia.
Mm-hmm.
So all that's great. And of course, leads to our link up. We cut the whole eye thing. 5 months later, Kingpin's men are after her. She stops by to patch herself up and to essentially make a statement with Kingpin's shipping operation in her hometown. We are introduced to Biscuits, who is essentially her Foggy Nelson, which I thought was kind of charming.
Man, Biscuits is such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
I hope nothing bad happens to him down the
Well,
line.
he made out pretty well this season, and he got to drive a monster truck. So I think he's going to do quite fine.
Mm-hmm.
So again, so the arc, as we put it in this episode, is she wants Kingpin's empire. It would seem wants to be Queen Pin. We reveal the Kingpin is alive with a damaged eye.
Mm-hmm.
A part of me still feels, and here's the thing, I get kind of why, because it might have hindered things a bit, but then again, I don't know, if a longer season, who knows. When we shot him, I really wanted him to be shot in both eyes, like so we could do what we did with him in the comic, but we didn't quite go for it. I get why we didn't, because I guess I kind of get why we didn't, because maybe it would have hindered the whole signing thing with Echo. I know, because I love the idea that he was blinded at least temporarily, so he was in Matt Murdock's shoes. It's an insanely interesting idea to me, at least temporarily. Um, then I think the better solution might have been, what if we deafened him so he was in Echo's shoes? But then that might have created other problems. So I get why we didn't go full tilt the blinding, but then it makes you wonder, like, if we're gonna just go half, why? I don't know, if we're just gonna go literally halfway with it, with just shooting him in one eye, and the eye's not even gonna be gone or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just more of a cosmetic change rather than like a physical change.
I mean, for continuity's sake, I like that. Okay, at least he still looks like the Kingpin, just has a bit of a scar there, and he has money, so I guess
It was like the
that makes
jigsaw. It was like the
sense.
jigsaw look in Punisher season 2, where he's not really that messed up.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, well, I mean, Jigsaw. See, that was ridiculous with Jigsaw, but still. Anyway, yes. So I guess so moving on, we're going to episode 2. A lot of these are going to go by faster, kids. Episode 1 had all the baggage in it. So, okay. Episode 2, Loak. So I guess the best way to
I
summarize this is the
really,
big train sabotage episode.
I really liked how this episode opened. The way that it was directed, was sort of the overhead, over the shoulder look, and the whole like lacrosse sequence. That was really cool. At least at least like visually speaking. Um, and I think when we get to sort of the whole train stuff, I liked how it was paced,
Mm-hmm.
and like the fat and like the way that the heist has to work out with Maya's disability really worked.
Mm-hmm.
Having Biscuits as like this unwitting co-conspirator to a great train robbery was really cool and really fun.
So, a few things. So, yeah, I like the train caper itself. It's a little adventure, not she we damaged the foot and everything. Nothing wrong with that. And I like the preparation for it more, because I love Scully. Scully's great, and I think he's a very wonderful kind of like little staple of the show. I love seeing Biscuit show up and help him sell to the tourists, or the holos as they call it.
Mhm.
So all that's really good and really charming. So I mean, it kind of gets us kind of familiar with, like, the characters and the family members, like Chula, the grandmother. She's preparing for the powwow and everything. We get a little bit of that. That's all fine and dandy. I really didn't. Honestly, my least favorite of the three flashbacks was the opening of this one, because it's just like, what I need when I'm going into an MCU show. I need sports. I need Native American sports. That's what I need. Like, the last thing I want in an MCU show really is sports.
You didn't like Native American lacrosse?
Lacrosse is okay, but I don't want to watch lacrosse. Okay, it's like, oh, that's kind of nice. I don't, unless you're Ted Lasso, I don't need sports. Okay, and even then, that wasn't even about the sports.
God, God, you man, you're the I don't like any sports ball in my pop culture.
Pretty much. I mean, I don't know. I mean, unless it's like Legend of Korra with like the pro bending thing. Okay, that's at least sports with the sports with like the powers and everything. I don't know. There's like something. I, I, I don't know. It just felt like what am I watching at this point? It's like so it's about the endurance of sportsmanship and like I guess it's kind of cool lacrosse, but it's lacrosse. Why am I watching lacrosse? I'm trying to I'm trying to watch Echo sell her business with the Kingpin.
I think there was sort of a point. It wasn't as explicit. It was that like was her kind of having this beat like the ancestor in that flashback having sort of a specific beef with like a male tribal maybe
She
not
had to
member.
think. She had to think cleverly to get out of defeat her obstacle, which is what she did on the train. I get it, but it just feels. It's like we can't just have Echo be smart. We have to have her like the power has to get her out of that jam. Really.
I mean,
And even then, it's like she kind of had like the strength of 10 men for a moment just to unlatch the thing. It wasn't even really she fought her way out of it. That was kind of pointless.
yeah, maybe the strength could have been a little bit more reduced, and then the power stuff could have been more greater. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to like. Obviously, I have really no ability to ever cut the legs out from under you on any argument with because you're a lawyer. But you know what I mean. I don't mean the. I'm not trying to like take blocks away from your Jenga tower, pal.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it just kind of bugged me. It's like why do we have that?
It's for the people that enjoy a good game of Native American lacrosse.
All right, anyway,
It does
so
look like a fun game. I'll be honest. Like
I mean, look, it's fun. It's I don't need it right now. It's fun. It's cool. I just don't need like 5 minutes of it. I could use 5 minutes of maybe like Kingpin saying, "This is why I killed your father." I could use that.
that was the thing that's bugged me after watching shows. Like, did Kingpin ever explain why he wanted the father killed?
No, I mean you have to assume it's a businessman. I don't know.
This no okay. Just as a side, Dragon. Man, when I think there was one time he's like, "Hey, are you available to cover this and that?" It's like, "Oh, I'm watching the Super Bowl." It's like, "Really?" It's like, "Yes, I'm watching the Super Bowl." Dragon, this is what a red-blooded American watch on a Sunday.
The only reason I watch the Super Bowl is for the ads, and believe me, I'll be doing that this year because we're supposed to get the Deadpool trailer during the Super Bowl.
And I'll be enjoying rooting for hopefully the Cowboys to well, not the not unfortunately.
Unless there's a good spirited man with a mustache coaching that team, I don't think I'm going to be watching it.
Dragon, just when you watch the TV, just draw a mustache on your TV, and then whenever a coach or an assistant coach pops up, he'll have the mustache on. So you'll really
Why should I deface my television for your point?
it doesn't have to be permanent facing. You can wipe it off. I'm not asking you to put permanent
But I'll
marker.
know what's there. Oh yeah, great idea. Yeah, that's gonna go swimmingly. And anyway,
Yeah, you like European football. God, are you Benedict Arnold, Dragon?
anyway, so Echo she sabotages the shipment. Basically the weapon shipment on the train blows up when it gets to port, and Zane is Andrew Howard from Watchmen and Bates Motel, by the way. He played Emma. The second actor played Emma's dad in Bates Motel. So I was happy to see that guy pop up. And interestingly, there was a bad guy in Bates Motel named Zane. So that was just kind of cute to me. But anyway, so okay, let's see. So point being, Zane's gonna be coming after him later. Scully builds her a new foot, at least a temporary one, while he's building the proper one significance. Henry's on damage control. He's not happy. So Henry, by the way, Henry is her actual uncle. He's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And we link up with Bonnie. Bonnie, essentially, the sister-like cousin. She's learns that Maya is in town, and Maya's not too plussed with Bonnie knowing this.
Yeah, and then we have I thought Grant Green's character is Grant Green's character. I thought he was like Maya's grandfather.
Well, no, no. So here's the thing. So he was. Well, I mean, he was married to Chola, and I mean, I don't think he's at the very least right now he's not. I guess it's like they're separated. So, but the thing on her, that's her grandmother on her mother's side. So that is her mother's mother, Chula, and he was married to her. So I don't know how Biscuits. I
I
really have
mean,
no
it's,
idea
I
how
mean,
Biscuits fits into everything.
then he's the maternal grandfather.
Uh, yes, I think so.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I don't know how. Here's the thing. I'm still perplexed how the heck Biscuits fits in. I think he's like related to
Well,
Skull. I think.
the thing is that like in like say non-white backgrounds,
I
like
know they have a bunch of cousins in the neighborhood.
no, it's more like cousin and uncle and aunt. It could be used even for people that are not related by blood, but are just like basically family.
Yeah, but Scully was like talking about Biscuits early though.
Yeah, he probably could. He probably could be just like he's like his parent is like a cousin of like Maya's mom.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let's move on to episode 3. So, Tuklo. This is the big roller ring episode. Now, here's the thing of the opening flashbacks. At least I like this one stylistically the most because I like the whole silent movie idea. I think it's a cute idea. Given we have a deaf, kind of a deaf protagonist, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like doing a western sort of thing. I mean, it was cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. A lot of gunplay there, which unfortunately we don't. Well, I mean, we kind of do that later with the whole like she makes the makeshift kind of like rivet or lug nut gun thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, I'm kind of on the fence here because this episode has. Here's the thing. I think 2 is aside from that train thing, we really don't have a lot plot wise going on in 2, 3. At least we have we have neat action at the roller ring, but I don't know. There are certain things I'm not crazy about in this episode.
Like
I mean,
what?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is a petty reason. This isn't like a good reason not to like. I'm not crazy about the white trash henchmen or hench girls.
See, I don't. I've heard. I've seen people complain about that. I don't get what's the issue.
But again,
Like,
that's just the taste. I'm not saying it's an actual problem with. Well, let me put it this way: it's a taste thing, but I guess the problem is like I don't buy that like Echo's really getting the runaround by just essentially Mama June here. I don't really buy it. You know.
can you repeat that? I don't get what
Well,
you mean.
I was basically I'm comparing the one girl. Like, I don't buy Echo getting the business by Mama June here. Essentially, by essentially just this, like these two ladies are giving her trouble after how skilled a fighter we've seen that she's been. Even if I don't know, it just feels a little like
Wasn't she just hit or just wasn't it like a surprise ambush
I
or
don't
whatever?
know if I don't think chloroformed her or not. I don't think like at the end of the last episode she was shooting at the thing. I think she got taken. I think that's what happened at the end of episode 2, and then she just woke up like upside down in the place of the disco ball. Then we kind of went from there. I don't know. It just felt kind of off, and we were like, "This is our like in the scale of the MCU bad guys and henchmen. This is what we've been reduced to. That's kind of what it feels like. We just have like Vicky, the guy who sprays the shoes, like essentially calling the kingpin on by proxy of Zane, and they're at the mercy of these two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, you would have wished they were a little bit more like intimidating or had more like bite to
Like
them.
actual henchmen are not like this guy is seemingly being pushed into like, hey, rat out your boss because essentially you have two girlfriends or some weird situation going on there. Seemingly they're calling the shots and he's caught in the middle of them. I don't know how that works. I don't know. It just feels weird.
I guess it's the thing where
It's like
they're
we
probably
chloroformed Echo. I don't know.
well they're probably more goons than henchmen. Dragon
I know the whole goons henchmen. Yes, yes. Even so, it just feels like weird that these are goons.
it, the hand wave reason is that like the
That and
economy.
I parenthetically I don't like white trash too. That's a personal thing though. So I was like, I took too much satisfaction Echo punching that lady. I gotta be honest.
Mhm.
That's just petty of me, but that's what it is.
Well, I think the quality of the goon is reflective of the economy. Dragon inflation
Yeah,
must be an issue in the FCU.
that's fair. That's fair. They're hurting for money over there at the House of Mouse. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. So the big thing, we have a really nice bit here. Echo and Bonnie are they are kind of both captured there, and like they can't sign to each other for a moment. They have like a lot of unspoken things in that scene, which is a really interesting, compelling kind of bit for them. Like they're reunited against their will at this time. They're kind of silly reasons, but they're reunited against their will, and they can't sign for a moment. But then she uses the boot and she gets out of there.
Mhm.
All right, let's see. Okay, I love Henry explaining to Vicky what's going to happen. Zane's going to walk in there and just walk all over him and eventually kills him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. A nice little nod to Hawkeye with the introduction of Echo in Hawkeye, where she messes with the music and the sounds and everything, like music blaring, like
Has
all the
the
multicolored.
has the lights turn red.
Yeah, which is a nod to when we first saw her in Hawkeye. And then I do love the fight with the very brutal fight where she's like, using like the arcade the equipment and everything, like using like the guns like as whips, and
Yeah.
the skee ball bit was brutal. Like she's like throwing skee balls at him very bloodily. That was a good
That was really cool.
that was really cool. Yep.
I kind of wish though that like as cool the violence was like this is moments where I wanted to see Bonnie's reaction to it,
Mm-hmm.
because then it's
But
like
we didn't.
we didn't, yeah, because then it just feels like the female characters are kind of put to the side until the very end, and it's like had they been in the forefront, I feel like it would have been much more stronger for Maya's arc to have like gone to the place where she is at the end if she had sort of like her Jiminy Crickets with
Mm-hmm.
Bonnie and her grandmother kind of like, hey, this is not where you should be going. This is not the path you should be heading. And I think the fact that she kind of the way she comes about it through her own, it's like it kind of feels like a disservice then because these two, based on their backgrounds, like Bonnie being a paramedic, that's like in a position to like help save lives and all that stuff, and Trula being, she's like a male woman, and but she's just a community, like an elder of the community. Like
Yeah.
they could have been the ones to have put Maya in like a more heroic path, but the fact
They
that
abandoned her. Well, one of
yeah,
them abandoned her.
yeah, it feels kind of like Maya just kind of lucked her way or just stumbled into like doing, taking the heroic path or doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a cop out in that sense.
Hmm.
All right, so I do love that. I love how we're kind of channeling Daredevil, where they're about to kill Maya and company, and then the phone call comes in, and they all. I love it's like some weird like some funny like out of place ringtone about New York. It's the Kingpin calling, and it's like that saves their bacon, and it's like. So then Henry's now on Maya's team, and he's explaining, who made that call. It's like I shot him in the face. It was like Henry, you couldn't have like tipped her off that well operations are still going on. Surely you'd imagine he'd heard from somebody that hey the boss is okay, the boss is still around.
Hmm.
So there's a bit of that. Scully gives Maya the new tribal leg, which it's a nice gesture. That's what I'm saying. Like I like the touches of like okay, like the heritage, kind of like it bringing her visually on the arc to where she is at the end of things. I like the symbol that's on her jacket that's essentially on the vest that she wears at the end, even though it's I know it's not 100. At least from what I've seen, traditionally, it's not like at least the Daredevil stuff with her. It's not comic accurate, but it's a nice. That's not a deal breaker. It was just like ultimately, like we're building the costume here and there, kind of nicely throughout the thing, but in kind of a nice, like I guess, symbolic way before we literalize it with powers.
Yeah,
Um, okay, so Kingpin is at Biscuit. I think it's Biscuit's. Is it Chula's house or Biscuit? It's their childhood home, but I guess Biscuit lives there.
it's kind of, I think I would,
Because Chula says like she basically she the place is almost like a museum to like her daughter. Her daughter owned that house and then she
yeah, it's
died. So
yeah, probably Chuler has her own home, and then that home that was originally like Maya's
has
parents' home.
Biscuits checking on the property or something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh,
They
we have
they,
the
they didn't think to Airbnb it.
yeah. We have the unkillable John. I want to shout out the unkillable John Kelly. He's been in the comments, by the way. Says fun trivia fact: the actors that played Zane and Vicky were both also recurring actors on Agents of Shield. Yeah, yeah, that guy. So the guy who plays Zane, yeah, he's in a bunch of stuff too. He pops up. Andrew Howard. So I would not be surprised if he was in Agents of Shield. Vicky, sure, I don't know. I don't recall who exactly he played, but I guess I could buy that.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Yeah, so it's Maya's childhood home. But yeah, he just manages the prop. That tracks. Okay, so Kingpin is there and he's looking imposing. And that brings us to, for my money, the best episode, episode 4, Taloa.
Yeah, I really liked like Vincent D'Onofrio always brings it, and I
Mm-hmm.
think, for, and I don't know about you, Dragon. I think for his appearances in MCU so far in Hawkeye and Echo, his characterization. Now we're going to get into his power set or his durability. Just his characterization and the performance feels consistent and authentic and continuous with what's been established and displayed in Netflix Daredevil. And I think with how like Kingpin interacts with Maya in this episode,
Mm-hmm.
like D'Onofrio does a really good job of kind of being conflicted, like in
Yeah,
his delivery and his tenor. Like he wants to be mad at Maya for like trying to kill him and all that stuff, but there is this kind of warmth and care for her that I think he only really expressed to two other people, really, both of them being women, his mother and his wife Vanessa.
this episode does epitomize a lot of the things I adore D'Onofrio's Kingpin for from the Netflix Daredevil. So one of the reasons I really love this episode, because I mean the scenes that we get with him, all the scenes we get with him, it's like it reminds me why I love the Kingpin. So this episode really did a lot right for me. It's again, it's the most story focused episode. Again, the flashback that opens this one is easily the best. um, always have this. Again, it's inspired by this one that I love that we got so much mileage out of that deleted scene with the Kingpin from Hawkeye, where he just basically says, "Let's go get some ice cream," and then we're actually seeing, okay, what would them getting ice cream look like?
What do you think? What do you think is Kingsman's favorite flavor?
God, well, we know it. Well, Zupa chocolate.
Hey, what?
Okay, remember he loves the cake. He loves Zupa, which is like an Italian cake. Do you remember what is that chocolate? I think
Oh,
it's
you mean
chocolate.
Zuppa Toscano? That's a Tuscan soup.
Well, no. In Daredevil, he had like the dessert. Wait, is it? Wait, what's a Tuscan? Wait, what did you just say?
Zuppa Toscano, it's a broad term literally meaning Tuscan soup. So it's
Soup.
yeah, so though it is called Ministre
Okay,
de Pain, which is bread soup.
okay, so I don't think that was it because in Daredevil he said it really sounded like Zupa, which was like a piece of cake that we saw him and his mother eat, and like a piece of Zupa, which he's saying like
Oh, I that's I don't know the name. I know what we're talking about, but I don't know
yeah, that
about.
was like a thing in Daredevil, like in the first season. Like he offered that he wanted to get that for Vanessa as a dessert, and then we learned that he and his mother shared that. And like when he was sending his mother out of the city, the protector says, "I'll make sure you get a piece of Zupa. Wherever you stay, they're gonna bring you some Zupa."
Hold on, let me see. Oh, what is the Zuppa? They okay. Uh, it's a sweet cake. It's an Italian. It's a yeah.
Yeah, but
So
do you know what flavor it is? You think? Do you think it's like
no. So there. It's an Italian dessert called zuppa inglese, and it's a custard dessert. It's basically it's an Italian dessert layering custard and sponge cake,
Mhm.
perhaps derived from trifle. So yeah,
It did look kind of spongy when we did see the cake, so I guess that tracks. Okay, so I think I'm gonna take chocolate off the table. I don't honestly because of the suit and everything. I would say vanilla just because, well, two reasons. One reason just because it goes with the aesthetic with the white suit. The silly reason is like it sounds like Vanessa. It's vanilla. It's a dumb reason.
no, it's vanilla with like
Little purple
cherry flavoring
sprinkles. Okay,
because it mimics the painting.
love it. I'll go sign that. All right. Anyway, Let's see. So we have we have this very mean ice cream man that discriminates or literally disrespects Smiley very clearly. That the child probably can't hear him. He's not giving her any time. He scares her off, and poor this little girl is really good acting here. She just runs off, kind of upset. And the kingpin, you gotta love. You can see how. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna gush about that now for you. He's getting so pissed off, and you can see him like writhing, just seeing like this unfold before his eyes, and he's like, again, he's as Kingpin said, he's a monster and a child. He's very much so because of that. There's like a kingship to the innocence of youth because he sees himself as the little boy, like not getting treated fairly. So he just he goes out there and he acts like this giant monster man child, just going there and throwing him in an alley.
I will say one thing that's like I really wish if I was Maya, if Kingpin brought all that food and drink and wine, I would not have wasted the wine. I would have kept it in the fridge.
I think she's not drinking because she's afraid he poisoned it.
I mean, to kill her, I
Yeah.
feel like Eka should be like I don't know if Kingpin would ever.
Well, I don't think he did poison. I just saying I
Yeah.
think that's what she thinks is happening there. Otherwise, why would she dump it?
I feel like I think part of it is just that like with her
Is it
friend.
just as an insult? You think?
No, I think pragmatically speaking, you don't want to kind of be like buzzed when you're dealing with someone that you just killed. You tried to attempt to kill the last time you saw them.
Well, yeah, it's like one glass of wine, though. I mean,
No, I mean this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Wilson wants her to drink half the bottle or another. Like,
we can't like say, "Hey, drink up and do it." Really.
no, I mean it'd be a long night. If you brought her snacks, you brought her cookies. Like, I mean, maybe because like when I was
Because
talking,
what I like to do with I like to dunk. I like to dunk the cookies in wine, Rohit. That's what someone likes
well,
to do.
you have the meal with the wine, and then you save the cookies, with milk on a rainy day or on
I don't even know what you're saying anymore. Like, come on, man. It's
I guess I was going to watch that scene. I just was really hungry. It's like, oh, that looks really appetizing.
It does. No, actually, I love how I love the effort which he took to pack. It's like in a little Tupperware, a little like almost like a
Yeah,
Japanese
and
kind of like
it
presentation.
has to
It's
be
in the nice
really,
little lunchbox.
it has to be really good food, and that's why you're like,
Yeah.
why would you waste the good food? It's like,
Okay. Well, I want to talk about we have to talk about the ice cream before we get to the dinner. Okay, so just again, the Kingpin again. He always has had this built-in sympathy for women and children because of his past trauma, and just seeing this excellent scene of brutality. Which again, the big question everyone had with Kingpin and the whole rating and Daredevil and everything going into the MCU is like, are we ever going to measure up to the very infamous in a good way to the very infamous car door scene from Daredevil? And obviously, we're not going full tilt with that here, but this is like showing like, yeah, we're going to go brutal here. We're going to put him in the white suit specifically to blood spatter it. Have him mercilessly punch this ice cream man.
no. He should have put the guys like inside his ice cream like cart, and then used the
Did
sliding
it
door
bother you that
as
we
like.
didn't? Did it bother you that we didn't see him after that walk off and like him like reach in and grab him some ice cream?
Well, considering he's covered in blood, he might not want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you remember? Do you remember an interview with Kevin Feige where he mentions that there was written a scene of Captain America where like he just came from an Infinity War where he came from a battle. He's like easily bleeding, and he's eating like mashed potatoes or a potato, and then the blood just gets on his food. And he just keeps on eating. And then
No,
Feige
I
was just
didn't.
no, like he mentioned that, and it's like I was horrified that the scene had to be taken out. It was only it was in the writing stage, so I just feel like I feel like it just kind of just feels icky, just like oh, I have like having any bodily fluids on you, and you don't want to eat any food or yeah.
Right, fair enough. Okay, well, it makes actually now you bring up it does actually make sense why they probably didn't do it because he. Yeah. However, I've been trying to remember. Like, did he grab her hand with the bloody hand or no?
Uh, because I think the way the shot was, it's like it was
Because
like
his right hand is the bloody one. His left hand is like when he's like reaching out saying, "Don't be afraid." Which I love his acting on that too. I just love him like genuinely like I need a new jacket. I don't want Maya to see it as he turns and there's the child. It's like, oh my god, I love everything about that scene. And she comes over and one again when he's punching this guy and he's getting spattered blood, it does make me think of the big the symbolic moment in Daredevil season 3 where we bloodstain Rabbit in a snowstorm, because that's the best thing about the white suit when we do it in Daredevil season 3 is that he's wearing the painting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so she walks up and she kicks him, and of course, of all the things she can do, she's kicking him. That does make you think, keep kicking him. The big line during like his father like trying to teach him the man up, which again is like another like the formation of the Kingpin, where again he is this child over petty things, like his father encouraging him to kick a man while he's down.
Yeah.
Versus Daredevil, which is like literally the boxing and rules and stuff, versus like kick a man when he's down, hit him with a bat.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so all that's great. And then like then we kind of cut to the future there during the blip. Kills the interpreter as they move forward in their relationship, like her graduation day, which I suspect is that the final lesson is that it's only the two of us. This is what I do. You have to accept that, which is like, even though this woman was loyal to me, I killed her. And I have to wonder if on some level that is the Kingpin, maybe like not directly saying it, but maybe on some level, again, because we don't talk about it, unfortunately, that might be like his way of saying like, I killed your father for business, but if you stay in my good graces, basically this is a threat that can happen. Again, it's only the two of us, so if we really trust each
Well,
other,
she's
this won't
deaf.
happen.
She wouldn't hear that.
Oh my god, you're right. Never
That's
mind,
why.
I
That's why
misread that.
No, that's why. Because like she gets.
Walks off, and yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I forget what I just said. I know what I was talking about. That's great, Rohith. I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you caught that.
Yeah.
So yeah, she doesn't know then. All right, that's okay. Anyway, but it is a great horrific moment. It makes it even more twisted and messed up, and I gotta be honest, I kind of like it even more. Is the fact she walks, well, the poor lady walks up, and she's begging for her life, and just walks into the plastic, gets killed just like Julie in Daredevil season 3.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine like if you're a family member of the interpreter, it's like, hey, where's so and so? It's like, oh, they couldn't make it.
See, I'd like to think Kingpin sent that family money.
Or send them like a
No,
cut
but
up a buddy part. It's like, if you tell anyone, and then just slowly, gain some money over time. Just
on
to
a
just
serious note, though, Kingpin has always had this thing for women and children. That's not to say he hasn't killed women or killed women in Daredevil, but every time it was not without a purpose. Like Miss Cardenas, she did, he did not take any pleasure in her death. And for example, Julie was again again was for it was for a purpose. He's not just killing willy nilly. And you have to wonder though, would he have killed Karen Page in that one scene when she killed Wesley? Where that one would have been motivated by anger though. But again, it's that thing though. Like he doesn't want to like beat a woman like his mother was beaten. So,
although I feel like he would have. I feel like at season 3, he definitely wanted to do some.
well, of course, he absolutely want to do that to her,
But yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, I guess I could buy him if he did something like, well, in doing something like that, I think he would at least it would be kind of like a blessing and also a threat, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna give you the money that essentially a woman's life is worth, but that also comes with a string of like, don't tell anyone, or I'll have to kill you too. Essentially, like, hush. It's like it's a hush money with a threat.
Yeah.
John Kelling says Kingpin would have killed Karen. May not have done it himself though. I don't. I'm just saying the whole point of that scene is like he's getting very infuriated, and they killed essentially his best friend, or depending on how you look at it, his brother or his son, depending on how some people have different reasons. The relationship with Wesley. I looked at it as brother, but when you look at
I
season,
mean,
they make it sons.
the really the most significant thing is that this is the only positive male relationship that we have seen with Wilson Fisk.
That's correct. Yes,
And that says something, because
it
I think
does.
part of the whole women children thing is like, you guys mentioned with the trauma stuff. It's like, I feel like this. I don't know what more you want to talk about. It kind of leads into sort of stuff I want to talk about for the fifth episode. But I feel like you want to. Is there any more you want to talk about?
We'll circle back to the Wesley point when we
Sure.
when we get there. Let's just let me see if there's the other major stuff we talked about before then. again, we already mentioned the whole inconsistency with Hawkeye with the whole signing business. But that said, I do love I love his workarounds, accepting what we do have here. The eyepiece that does the ASL translation. That's a really good the contact.
Although the whole like robotic or like Siri style voice,
Yeah.
it doesn't continue on. I think after a while, that was kind of something an
Well, no,
inconsistent.
I think we heard it during that scene. I think we heard it still. Yeah, during the dinner, you heard a little bit of there. Maybe it drowns out a bit, but it
Like in the
starts.
fifth episode.
Well, no, remember she got rid of it though. And so
Oh,
they both got rid of it. Remember, he got rid of it on the plane, and when he
okay.
took the eye patch off, and then she took it. That's it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So they have the Sunday family dinner on Thursday, which is a great scene. I just love that line cracks me so much. Like her just saying very sincerely, "But it's Thursday." So again, this moment, in this episode does absolutely remind me why I love D'Onofrio's Kingpin. I like the tension with the knife. She dumps the wine, but she keeps the cookies. The whole like, let's hope the cookies don't go the way of the wine.
Mhm.
He's not angry with her after all. He knows that he had her father killed. So I think in some sense he's not mad because he knows that's fair. But the weird thing, and we're not talking about, is that he doesn't admit. It's like he is trying to manipulate her, but it is coming from a place of actually caring about her in his twisted way, where you shot me because I killed your father, and I understand that, but I want to move past this. Is essentially what he's saying, but he won't admit to killing your father. So it is kind of manipulation. Now, here's what I want to know from you, Rohit. Do you think it's a setup on the plane? Do you think he's just going to kill her on the plane had she shown up, or do you think he actually would have let bygones be bygones? Because what do you
I
think?
think he would have let bygones be bygones at a pragmatic level. Like Echo, like Maya's a very skilled fighter and just capable person. So having her on his payroll is a boon and not a negative. Two, I think he generally does care for Maya because if he in Fisk learning as much as he could about Maya's background when he comes to Tacoma, um, he or Tacoma, going to be coming to Maya's town in Oklahoma, he probably has a sense of like the amount of tragedy and suffering that she's gone through, and her being able to go through that and be this like, as I said, a capable person. He probably sees a lot of himself in her and feels a paternal instinct, even though how messed up and misguided that instinct is, considering he was the one that deprived Maya of her, remaining parental figure, that being her dad. And I kind of what I wish was if there was a reason provided for the killing her father, it would
Yeah.
have been very interesting. It would have been very cool if
Mm-hmm.
like there was a conversation where Willie mentioned to Fisk, the Kingpin, that he wanted out of the life. And
Which we saw what happened to Henry. Henry, they were going to kill his fam. They were going to kill him if he left. So he had to stay.
yeah, and I feel like then had like Chula been made aware of it, I think that would have been so great for her to like let go of the pain and negative feelings she had towards Maya's father.
Yeah.
And then at that point, he would have went from distancing herself from Maya to now focusing on bringing Maya back into the life, back into the family, and go and trying to like not have Kingpin be an overt influence on her.
One of the most interesting things about the Kingpin in the way we've depicted him in the MCU is that very selectively, depending on how much you want to really break it down, he doesn't. I mean, so rarely, if really at all, in some twisted way, does he lie in what we've seen. I'm not saying he hasn't. Here's the thing: he manipulated Bullseye. Okay, that's like really that's like the main time that he lied. He never really was asked directly, "Did you kill Julie?"
Mhm.
You have that. With Hawkeye again, like he's not lying that Ronan killed your father, but he's again obviously not connecting all the dots there. So again, technically, not really lying. So again, because of that just aspect with that character, it does make me think that his offer was genuine. The whole forgive and forget thing. That too. That's my take. I think he does. I think he does care for, it. And it's like hey, like
And a
it's
twisted
fair.
in a twisted and messed up way. Him and Thanos, Fathers of the Year. Am I right?
Mhm. Well, again, I've always loved I've always loved the comparison between Thanos and Kingpin because there are some interesting similarities there.
Yeah, man. For all the crap that Yelena threw at Alexei, Alexei's a much better father figure than Thanos and Kingpin are by
That's true.
Kingpin now.
True. I mean, to be fair, I mean, the Kingpin's gonna forgive her for shooting him in the face, though.
I mean, he did kill her father.
He did. That's the thing. Which is so interesting to me. It's like, yeah, that's fair. I mean, I killed your father. Shoot me in the face. Yeah, and I mean, the Kingpin. Here's a big question for you later on. So, okay, so let me get through the hotel. Let me get through this, and then we'll get to the casino scene.
Mhm.
So again, we have the Sunday dinner. He makes a seemingly a good faith offer there. He invites her to come back. There's some tension there. There's always the question of like, is it a manipulation? Is it truthful there? She kind of takes some time to mull it over. She kind of runs it by Henry, and then basically, almost like kind of Avatar: The Last Airbender to an extent, kind of like Zuko's big kind of moment. She echoes having like a crisis, an internal crisis. Because the Kingpin essentially raised her, or at least kind of gave her like like the goal set in the direction. He's offering her everything he's raised her to want. It's like it's within her grasp, like go down this path. She's at a crossroads. I can go down this path and essentially become Queen Pin, or the ancestral desire to be the heroic embodiment of her people.
Mhm.
So this kind of like she's kind of haunted by visions, and she gets a reluctant visit with Chula, in which she really just kind of hashes it out with her, and we get the backstory on her mother, Taloa. I believe Taloa was her mother, hence the whole title thing. Her birth, which basically is where we get the whole the strength. When in times of need, you have like the flashbacks of the women, the past women in the bloodline, which gives you the strength of your ancestors and essentially yada yada. That went. So she's kind of ultimately she chooses she kind of errs on that side of things, and she's initially going to kill the Kingpin. That's what her path is. Like she goes to the hotel, returns to kill Fisk, who is not surprised by this, and he tells her the truth about his father, which is a really big. It's a really big moment too. Like it's also a big confirmation for the canon thing. Like, oh my god, that is like the Hammer. That's from killing Bill Fisk from Daredevil. And I liked initially it was a manipulation. Like when my father died, and he wasn't like necessarily lying to her. Like, hey, my father, when my father died, things changed. I kind of found direction and purpose there.
Mhm.
Of course, him fully telling her, I killed my father to be free, which is absolutely true. Whether we've seen the scene or are getting in context as it is here, he calls her out too in a wonderful bit of acting here. Like, if I'm a monster, what does that make you? Did you plead for their lives?
Yeah,
Which is
and
such
then
a great point.
it would have been funny. It's like, and my mother and I had this. A simple English. Have a bite.
Let me order some zupa. I'll call room service. Did you bring any of the cookies? But seriously, I just love this moment here. This is a long-winded way of what I was getting to here. She presents her with the hammer, and he's like offering, like, "Okay, look, free yourself. I failed you. Kill me." Do you think he would have let her kill him? I mean, he was very sure she was not going to do it, obviously. But I mean, like in that moment, do you think it was genuine? Like, you know what? I've inflicted a lot of pain. I care about this person. She's rebuffed my affection. It does see to me. Here's the whole Vanessa conversation from her. This is where it really comes back for me. Here's where it really occurs to me.
Okay.
Okay, so if assuming Kingpin is willing to die in this moment, that implies to me Vanessa is not around because that's his reason for living. And that makes you wonder: is he really, since Hawkeye onward, like to this point in our story, is he that invested in Maya with everything that he's doing in this story because that's all he has left?
I mean, I think really what it comes down to it is that Kingpin has such a warped view
Mm-hmm.
of his dynamic with Maya and he thinks Maya is a reflection of him. So, in his view, like,
If she sees me as my father, I need to die like my father.
but he also thinks that Maya sees him the way he saw his mother,
Yeah.
and I guess it's like with both being conflicting, then Maya would hesitate and not kill him.
Hmm. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's some there's like this video essay discussing about sort of what is the implications about the abuse dynamic with like Thanos and Gamora, and I feel like there are some interesting things about implications or subtext to really dive into, and for that's probably like a further in depth discussion. But yeah, I think that's just kind of that's the really icky and entrenched part about about Maya and Fisk's dynamic is that you know Fisk loves Maya, but like the way that Fisk loves Maya, you call into question if Maya hadn't turned out the way he did to a certain extent. Would Fisk love Maya as their own independent person, or the way that Fisk loves Maya is because Maya is an extension of himself? And that's sort of the thing that
That I think that is the heart of the connection. Like, he sees himself in that girl, and that's why he's as invested as. I think it would have been more of like an honor bound thing if she were not like him.
Mhm.
I think you're right about that. The unkillable John Kelly has a really good point here. I'm just going to clarify this one. He says, I wonder if Wilson's mother is dead at this point. He does mention the next episode that he lost someone he loved, unless he's talking about Wesley or Vanessa. Well, here's the thing. Okay, so his mother is dead. She died in season 3 of Daredevil. That we do know. So, but that was years. However you want to slice it,
Did she die like in season 3 itself, and there was like a funeral, or was it like, or
while
did
he
she?
was in prison, which is like another reason he's really ticked off at Matt Murdock. So like his like
Oh,
that's the
okay.
thing. So he mentioned that
Oh,
when he got out, I'm trying to remember when in season 3 he mentioned this. I think it was I forget if it was to Nadim or he did mention in season 3 that his mother died while he was in prison. That really upset him.
oh, and that he didn't get to see
Yeah.
didn't. Oh, okay.
So he was really upset about that.
Hmm.
I maybe he told Karen that. Maybe, I'm trying to remember if I think so. I remember because she brought up the visit that he had with her mother, so that was like already fuming him. So I think before that I'm sorry, we're drifting off focus here, but that's essentially what happened in 3. So she definitely died in season 3, but that was it would have been years ago at this point. So I don't know how. I think recently he's just literally talking about Maya. I recently lost someone I loved. In terms of like recency, that's what I think. Because anyway, so you have like a 5 year, you have like a 5 year blip thing, and then you have whatever time like between 18, which again I don't want to do the whole year diagram thing here. So anyway, Kingpin makes a good point here. So the whole like you knew what you were doing. And of course, it's still kind of manipulation. I mean, you trained her to do that essentially. Though you isolated her, you did all this. She calls out the contacts. I was there.
Hmm.
Like every it's like every father who does try, even if like you have like a distant father who's like trying to be there in the moments that they are there, and then if something doesn't go right, there's gonna be some frustration there. Um, so anyway, so then we have like the big hammer moment there. Ultimately, he's like he thinks like they're in the clear. He's gonna see her on that plane, and unlike with Ross and Rachel, she actually did not get on the plane.
Sad.
Yeah, kind of a bizarro version of the Friends thing. Only we did one of them was on the plane. Yeah. So he
Watching what Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk is like, pivot, pivot.
pivot.
We were on a break.
Vanessa, we were on a break. For 5 years, we were on a break.
I'm fine. I'm fine, really.
Get off my sister. Anyway, Friends.
I'm a paleontologist.
Okay. My sandwich. That was my sandwich, Vanessa. And he took it.
Now I just want just like an AI of just Kingpin reading Ross lines, saying Ross lines
I,
from old friends.
I could listen to Kingpin read the phone book. I'm not gonna lie to you. I could. Anyway, just imagine like doing like Orson Welles, like doing like all the ad readings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like not just D'Onofrio like doing the car ads like Cranston is, but I'm talking like him actually like just the Kingpin actually trying to sell the American public on the automobile or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he turns she stands him up. She's leaving town. Kingpin's very hurt by this. Removes the eye patch, and he's having a hissy fit on the plane. So that brings us to our last episode, episode 5, Maya. A solid enough finale, but the padding and the powers really waters it down a bit for me. So that's I like things that are in 5, but I don't know. Do you think it evades the usual like finale issue, the finale fatigue thing that we kind of have with a lot of the Disney Plus stuff, or like is it
It's
okay? Is it like
not it's not one of the better finales. I think it's
yeah,
the rhythm of the whole cutting and you know mashing these together.
yeah? I think the edit hurt this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so the opening's pretty solid here. You know, Maya's mother and the bird, the whole herd, the healing aspect there, which again, until we literalize it, I think there's no moral if she heals the bird, by the way. Like, hey, you hurt this bird, like, life and death has consequence. Nope, I'm going to heal the bird, but, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it feels like there. Weird thing, before we get into the Kingpin thing, which I'll turn over to your Wesley point, but the sewing machine scene between Shula and Scully, very nice, very well acted, quiet scene. I really love that scene. It's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
So Kingpin meeting Shula.
Oh man, that was such a tense. That was such a tense.
Yes, and we know he kidnaps. I don't know if it's in that moment or not, but she is kidnapped. So he at the end of that scene, you have to wonder like, he's waiting for her to leave. No, here's like I don't think he did himself. He had to have his men do that because I don't think that's the thing. He wouldn't hurt an old woman directly. He wouldn't do it with his bare hands. I don't think he ever would do that. So I just love like his fondness for the elderly is just kind of really playing well in this scene. The whole he says, "Your necklace." American Sign Language. Like, oh yes, it's just a very charming, pleasant scene, despite the danger that is obviously looming over, like a giant tsunami cloud or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like a hurricane, I guess, coming for. And also, they had there's actually a nice symbol that did track on the rewatch for me. The whole symbol, the woodpecker being the hummingbird or the woodpecker being the symbol of danger.
Mm-hmm.
Violence and danger and everything. That was kind of neat.
Oh man.
Like
Oh
that's
man.
that's that's as much as like magic as a mysticism as I'll get. Like okay,
No, no, no.
if they did that, I'd buy into that.
I was just reading a line, what John Kelling's last comment, and it just hit me like the implication.
Yep, you remind me of my mother. She died too.
After I'm done with you, you'll remind me of my father.
Oh God. All right. Do you want to wait on the Wesley thing, or do you want to talk about it now?
What about the Wesley thing?
Well, you said you had like a point you wanted to make about Wesley from earlier, Kingpin and Wesley.
No, no, no. I think my point was earlier was that like Wesley is like the most positive male
Yeah, the
relationship.
male relationship thing. Did you anything else you wanted to say? It sounded like you had like a thing about the male
Um,
relationship thing or correlation to this episode.
no, not really. I think no, no.
Okay, you sure?
I was gonna say something. I think maybe it might have just. I was gonna say that like Kingpin was like you mentioned about Kingpin not really wanted to hurt women and children. I think
Yeah,
I remember Kingpin really wanted to hurt Karen and being made aware of Karen being the one that killed Wesley.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
probably yeah. But no, I
No,
think that's yeah.
because Wesley was like the only positive male relationship he had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which again, so just a little point that I think John Kelling made earlier is like, yes, I know in the show they said he was like a son to him. I'm just saying before they said that for 2 seasons, I always kind of read it as like was kind of a brotherly thing, like it was like had he grown up with Wesley, because they're all, I don't know, they were very in sync with each other. There was a trust. There was something kind of like how you could almost say like Foggy and Matt are like so such good friends are practically brothers. I mean, he was kind of like his Foggy Nelson. He was his confidant. He was like he knew him like a book. He was always there for him in support of him. So I don't. I don't mind the son. I think the son thing still also plays, and there's evidence to support that. But I don't know. It's still. I think it can be both in a weird way.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so Echo, she in a bit of an odd scene, she internalizes her mother, which again, if they wanted to do this, that's one thing, but like literally having the mother show up and then essentially enact her power and take the pain away for her, like kind of get her through her arc, which feels a little easy. Like, hey, I took a break from the Kingpin, but then I've come back because now and just magically she's on the hero's journey again.
Mm-hmm.
The whole we spell out in a way that I think was necessary, but again, we're doing it in the last episode. Maybe we could have done it a little earlier. The fact that we're summoning the strength of like strategy, cunning, and ferocity of our past ancestry. The outfit with all this with the symbols on it. Again, all this works, but it's just I question like did we need to literalize it, which I already kind of like was going on about it at the start because it just feels a little convenient for okay, we're at the finale now. We have to put it feels mandated. We're at the finale. We got to put her in a costume and we got to do some money shots with the with the power payoff there. We're okay, so she's gonna have this power, and then when we need it most, we're magically gonna give grandma and her cousin the ability to fight baddies. It just that was really hackneyed to me. That was I was rolling my eyes like, oh, okay, really? They're all gonna be able to fight suddenly. It just
Mm-hmm.
feels very easy and very much we need action because Kingpin's just standing there until we actually do something interesting with them.
Yeah, it could have been like it would have been more. It would have been more fun if like they would have used their respective like jobs to like stop it. Maybe like Shula could have brought like hit some of the bad guys with her mail delivery truck, or use like her back to like hit one of the goons, and then maybe Bonnie could have used her like paramedic stuff to like
Or
um
here's a simpler idea. Let's just have Echo fight him.
yeah. I mean,
Yep.
yeah,
I'm
that's
just
I
saying,
mean
like, we don't need him to do it. Here's the thing. I think it's a wonderfully twisted idea. The Kingpin, again, inconsistent as it may be, he can't sign, so he has Bonnie, who means a lot to her in this very precarious situation where that's a twisted move of the Kingpin I can appreciate. You're going to sign my words to Echo, and you're probably not going to live to see the end of it.
again, that's a fair point from John Killing that Biscuits had the delivery
Yeah,
truck.
exactly. That's why we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love John Kelling's symbol. Jacob, throw that up for us again, would you? I love that icon. That's great.
Yeah.
Just wanted to shout that out. Okay. Let's see. So biscuits, we give him a monster truck. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Henry shoots Zane. I mean, that's also this is what I'm saying. All the intercutting, and we spent a lot of time on like this on like the powwow, and it's like I mean it's nice, but it's like it feels like guys we're just cutting away too much from our plot here for something that's
Yeah,
just kind of
it would have
cool.
been interesting if the power got interrupted by like Kingpin and his men.
Yeah,
Or like fight, yeah.
like if you're gonna do the powwow and have it be such a big deal, I think we kind of watered it down with all the flashbacks. I think you should. It just feels like that's when we should. If you want to do something significant there, and that's when we should have had that, and then we interrupted, and it's a big deal. I don't know because like okay, so she kind of has to like Trojan horse her way in there. Like I'm gonna walk as part of like the little parade that's going on there, and then because the hummingbird, I'm gonna find out where they are. Okay, again, I'll take that for the mysticism. Like the hummingbird takes her to the danger. Okay, like that's something I can take. That's a little on the subtle side. It's a bit of a leap. Well, I think it's a place logically they might be. I'll check there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we need to necessarily like she's in the outfit so she can get into the parade, and I don't know. So anyway, so aside from the magical BS already kind of laid out there, we have the big moment where impressively you have to wonder like, okay, we can't just have her be in a position where is she going to kill the Kingpin or not, because we've already done that, and she shot him in the face. She essentially killed him seemingly, and he lived through it. So we can't just do that again. So we do something interesting here, which I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it, but it is interesting. she tries to take his pain away, which I think is a good idea for the Kingpin. It is something that kind of propels him into the next arc for him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Now, this is another thing that does make me think. Okay, so Disney, we see the Disney Plus take on the origin of Rabbit in a Snowstorm. From the most, to me, the most lauded and at least the best episode of Daredevil, which is episode 8 from season 1, Shadow in the Glass or Shadow Under Glass, but the big Kingpin origin episode.
Yeah.
Where we see it from his bedroom, and again, this is the honestly, this scene is the main reason why I question the canon, because I think it's just an expressionistic sort of thing where, okay, this sort of thing happened a lot, and this is just from the other side of the wall, and like basically Disney Plus wants to make the image their own a bit, so they don't want to use the exact same footage, or I guess pay the actors or something. So we're just basically seeing it from a different angle. And again, it's kind of a dreamlike thing. So it's not I don't think it's a big deal, but it's just kind of like it tells you what you need to know, and it does still look like Rabbit in a Snowstorm. So I'm fine with it. So it's like, this is the one thing that makes you wonder though, is it just like them like doing something close to it, but being a different multiversal thing or not? So we'll see.
I think it was just an impressionistic way to do it.
Yeah. I think so too, because I mean, saying
Yeah,
literally, anyways, like he's killing his father with the hammer. We talked about it, like we
Yeah.
we showed the hammer. It's the same type of hammer. Let's just
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so she tries to take his pain away, and he relents. So there's a question if obviously it's not going to take fully, but it's not a band-aid solution either. It's not a permanent solution
Mhm.
either. Do you think we should have healed his eye? Or do you think we were right to keep it like an internal healing sort of thing?
I think probably it's the case that like you just don't want to have the makeup artist constantly put that makeup and have to worry about the continuity of the size of the scar and all that. And he's just like,
Well,
let's
no,
just
I'm saying they kept the scar, and they didn't get rid
no,
of it.
that's what I'm saying. They probably didn't want to keep that scar longer than it had to. That's like probably the outside, why the scar had to be taken away.
Well, no,
And
no, really, I'm saying they did not get rid of that scar. Is still there.
I thought the scar is
No,
gone.
it's still there in the post credit. It's still there.
Is it just more faint?
Maybe, but that's what I'm saying. It's the scar. I'm saying the scar is like it's not gone like you'd imagine it would be with the whole like she targeted to the eye.
Hold on.
It just feels really weird. I mean, look at it yourself. I'm pretty sure he still has like I don't know if it's like maybe the redness is slightly cleared up. But I mean, when he's in the car, it's still there. On the plane, I'm pretty sure it's still there. Because I think what you're saying makes sense, but like that's what I'm saying. Like they kept it there. Do you see it?
I mean, I really let me see. Oh, he still
Right?
did. Wow, that's man.
It just feels. Do you think it's just like a mistake in the shooting, or do you think it's like just purely they're doing an internal thing, or because it feels like in retrospect we should have just completely had not. If we're gonna go as far as to give her the power and do the healing thing because it's in tribute to the mother, you would imagine we were just gonna go full tilt. There's gonna be an eye missing or like a really scarred up eye under there, and by the end, that's how we're gonna completely fix that. I'm not even sure if that would have completely worked or not in terms of like that's an easy fix, but let's just say we're gonna do that. That's how you would get back to status quo. We didn't do any of that.
Okay, because there's like leaks of like set photos of Kingpin, in a suit, and he doesn't have any makeup or eye or scarring on his eye.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe he goes through some surgery to later fix it.
I
Or
mean,
maybe
that's the
put the
assumption,
makeup.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, or
But it just
maybe
feels
the
weird if we're
scar
going to
might
heal his eye and we're not actually going to heal his eye.
or maybe the scar shows up and it's like more CG than makeup, or reshoots. I don't know. Like
Doesn't it
that's
feel like a dumb thing though? Like kind of like a dumb idea if she's gonna heal him through the eye, but not actually heal any of that. Like there's no visual symbol of him being healed or rejuvenated or like that.
how like in video games, like when you have to like heal someone, like it takes a while to like fully heal them.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that, where it's like had Wilson just let her like focus on the eye for maybe a few more seconds, like he probably could. She probably could have taken the scar away.
I'll tell you what I think happened. You know what I think happened? I think they shot that out of sequence and they were kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, because the way the post credit scene is like, oh, this feels like a very like quote unquote tacked on. I was like, all right, this we're trying to like set a bridge from Echo to
But when
Born-Again.
he's in that car, though, he still has that scar. So I don't like. I can't even say it's like.
Well, he's in a airplane,
No, no,
right?
no. I mean before when he goes, he said, "What did you do?" And then gets in the
Yeah.
car to drive away. The scar's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying he's stuck with that scar in both of those scenes.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's Kingpin's reaction of like the whole "What did you do?" and like just him being very much like uneasy. He's like he's still clinging on to who he is, but there is something kind of like he's not feeling the hurt anymore. So now it's just kind of like him making a decision. It's seemingly him making a decision or at least reconcile. He didn't give her the hammer, so it implies that he did not let go of that pain fully, but he does want to make a change. And my theory with where we go in the post-credit scene is very simply, he's on the plane and he's seeing a news guy talk about their a mayoral election in New York, and they want a tough guy. They want a guy who's
A
really
bruiser, a fighter. It's like
they really emphasize that.
no, and it's just like I have never like I follow like coverage and political commentary for elections. Maybe not on the like mayoral level, but I just can't imagine mayoral election coverage, especially in New York City, to be like, we need a bruiser, a fighter, and it's just like they want someone else, and it's like that just does not. And I get you like Kingpin is the mayor, like has been the mayor or is the mayor currently in the comics, and
Yeah, it was a recent comic development.
yeah, and it'd be cool for like, and I can imagine Wilson Fisk like in the MCU being able to be in a position through some crazy machinations. But I think just the coverage alone, it's like it's a little late on thick. And I feel like in retrospect, I wouldn't want the coverage to be like, oh, like there's some both candidates like in the field are heavily disliked by voters, and
They
there's
basically said it's unopposed, like they're looking for a mayor.
no there are candidates. There's just like the highest like pick or option, and like a recent poll was like someone else.
Right. Well, let me. Okay, so here's the thing. So I meant to. I swear to you, I meant to look this up, but I wonder if maybe you have the answers. Can I? Obviously, with the president, we know it's against the rules, but for a mayor, if you have a criminal record, can you run for mayor?
So this is where I kind of thought. This is where I thought like, oh,
Now here's the thing. Now they cleared his record for all the stuff from season 1 in Daredevil season 3, but he did obviously went back to prison at the end of 3, so he did go down for like the whole I think Raid Nadim and all the stuff there. So there are crimes attached to him now. Like what is there, like if it's not a felony, can he run for it, or is like
well,
it's just any crime or
because there has to be tied to how he got back on the streets, right? And do
yeah,
crimes.
exactly. So he was a known he's a recognized figure like post Daredevil's
It might have been I feel like those machinations or how the hell he got out of like prison and into being a relative public figure has to be like Val has to be involved, or like maybe whoever was president during the blip like just
Well, I think
decided.
he got a part. Essentially, again, his crimes, the initial crimes that he committed were kind of like not. I'm trying to look for the legal term right now, but like not essentially undone. They were. I guess he appealed them. He appealed the charges, and they were dropped. Essentially, he fought for like
No,
time
no,
served.
no. So are you saying that like are you saying that
The
like
press conference in Daredevil season 3 when his lawyer shows up there and he basically says Mr. Fisk has been exonerated of the wrong charges. Like we appealed them and we made basically saying
the overturned the charges?
overturned. Thank you. That's what I was looking. They
Overturned the
overturned.
charges.
They overturned.
Well, I mean, for the stuff in season 3, though, it's like
Yeah, at the end of season 3. So now that essentially is like his first actual crime.
that's kind of where I thought was like when I saw the like, oh, Wilson Fisk is gonna go mayor, and it's like, okay, like I assume then Daredevil was not canon because like he was publicly went back to jail in season 3, and it's like the only way I can imagine it was somehow during the blip things got into chaos, and who on whichever level of government decided to like pardon Wilson Fisk for his crimes, and maybe Wilson Fisk was needed because like New York was in disarray. And I bet you know what also could be messed what be in an unfortunate like side effect of the blip, maybe for some of the witnesses and key individuals that would have like you know
Hmm.
because maybe because he would like let's say because Wilson Fisk like okay we got arrested he went to jail, but to go to prison like is for people who get fully convicted. Like you would have to have a trial and we don't know when the trial would have happened. Maybe when by the time the trial would have happened, there all the key witnesses, some key witnesses or key figures in the investigation for Kingpin were blipped.
Yeah, but it wasn't
And,
really. We saw what it wasn't really a witness thing though for him in season three though. That's the thing. It was more of like we had Nadim's dying declaration.
which was backed up by his boss, the brunette lady.
Right, right. Okay, fair point. Yeah. So we had yeah. Okay, yeah, so we did have her. Okay, so I guess that's the closest we have that as a witness. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess so really she the only she can't be the only tie though. I mean, doesn't the dying declaration have like sorry, now I realize we're debating legalese here, but
No, dying no, like so the whole so like when a so the whole dying declaration is an exception to admit like so for something to be admitted as evidence or testimony specifically it has to not be hearsay. And what it means for something to not be hearsay is it's not it has to not to assert the truth of the matter as in to assert a certain fact to be more or less probable and also it's said outside of court, so basically outside the confines of the court and being under oath. So for but there's certain exceptions, and there's certain exceptions to the rule where something can be quote unquote hearsay but still be admissible as evidence, or there can be certain things that can be admissible that aren't quote unquote hearsay. That are different types of like there's different reasoning like you admit them because oh this was just like a present impression of what happened, not like of hey I'm asserting this is what happened for the truth of the charges or the truth of the claim, but just something else that's ancillary to um, the substance of the charges or claims asserted in a legal matter. So for Nadim's dying declaration, it is admitted as evidence he because there's an assumption that for any individual that's in their last path of dying, when there's an admission of what they recounted what happened, we presume that what they said is to be the truth because that is the expectation that for what people in their dying breaths when they admit like a certain factor or observation of who or what killed them, we take it as as more likely than true. And then on top of Nadim's dying declaration, because the thing is, Nadim's dying declaration was not was only for his murder, and thus that would be one charge. So his boss is to corroborate that charge and to corroborate evidence of additional charges of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, whatever like laundry, whatever criminal activities you can think of. She was a party to that and could be then brought in as the witness for the prosecution for those additional charges. The Nadim declaration is for evidence for asserting that Wilson Fisk orchestrated the death of Nadim.
okay, well, either way, like, can a mayor have a criminal record?
Well, let's look it up. Oh, since we're here, I can look it up for you. Can
That's the thing. That's the real
Will
question. The Nadim thing is one thing, but that's the thing we got to know. Like, if a mayor can have a criminal record, then there's no problem at all. Especially at least in the state of New York, if a mayor can have a criminal record, there's no obstacle for the kingpin. Everything works solidly. So otherwise, we got to do all these mental gymnastics with the blimp and with the blip and everything, and
So,
just see.
according to the New York courts, if you have been .gov, if you have been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor, you may be barred from public office jobs like a police officer, firefighter, court officer, notary public. Public offices also include elected and appointed offices like governor, judge, legislator, local supervisors, commissioners. Um, okay, so It's may. So it's may. It's like it's not shall.
Okay, so is there so there's wiggle room there, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
there's a wiggle room, which is I
Okay.
cannot believe why it would be may not you're prohibit like shall like so I can't imagine a guy who would be convicted of federal crimes, mind you, because he was convicted of killing a federal officer.
Yes.
It would
Well, did
have
we tie anything else to Fisk, or was it purely Nadim? Do you recall?
no because that's the boss would be there to report to testify to all the charges that could be like the criminal conspiracy.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying. So it is conspiracy and Ray Nadim, right?
yes,
Okay, it's so literally that's what I thought, which of course includes probably the. I wonder if it includes what he did to the Nelsons.
maybe, but the thing is that it could be the case that that person got blipped, and because she got blipped, maybe
Well,
that
that's his wiggle room there. Assuming that's the thing, that
yeah,
would be his wiggle room. Yeah.
secondly, maybe he got pardoned for his crimes, and thus like
Pardon, so he could get the criminal underworld in line, is what you're saying.
yeah
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, look, that's okay. You know what? Look, I'll take that. Now that at least tracks. But as I'm saying, it's something they're going to have to deal with because again, that's going to be that is going to be a big determinant factor. We have to acknowledge, okay, we pardon them for past crimes. If they have that line in there anywhere, then we're going to be okay.
or the prosecution's case fell apart because like the blip impacted their case.
Yeah. All we know is when we get Daredevil born again, there are two things that we need to establish. Again, one, we got to reestablish. Okay, so Daredevil did not get blipped. Assuming any blip conversation happens, because we saw him when the blip would have happened in this show.
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, secondly would be the whole thing of like, okay, so for Kingpin to run for mayor, which is obviously going to be a big part of that plot, you know, we have to just acknowledge that. Okay, so for some reason, you know, this is allowed.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like simplistic the way I lay it out there, but those are the two things we need. Otherwise, that season's two big things are either going to run the whole face, the whole potentially canonized thing, or it's going to conflict with just the basic things we've set up in this show.
Honestly, I would probably think that it would be the case that it could be that they got hmm. I'm kind of hoping it's that he get is that like the people that would have been able to put him dead to rights, you know,
Yeah,
got blipped, and then he got out, and then maybe like over time, like he kind of manipulates his public image,
yeah,
and then by the time we get to Born Again, it could be the case that like people are aware that like Fisk has criminal activities, but maybe it's less like they can't pin anything on him, and more
yeah. It's
like
Tony Soprano.
yeah, and more like oh
Well, yeah,
like
to I'm saying we all know like he's in this stuff. We can't nail him on anything.
no. But I'm saying it's more like people are maybe just dissatisfied with the political establishment running the city of New York that they're willing to deal with the devil they know
Yeah.
and a crime boss who literally does own, like run parts of it and maybe runs it better than the politicians do. And it's like, well, let's have him run the city.
I mean, it would be kind of interesting. Like, chaos in the blip. We need someone who can, who can manage things, and he managed things during the blip. So let's put him in office.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting.
Yeah, and he's not he's not a politician. He's an outside like he's a quote unquote self-made man. So
Yep.
it could be, there's some parallels. I don't want to put the name out there
Of course.
but I feel
Well,
like
they did those parallels in
they
season
did. I
3.
feel like the parallels could be even further with like
He stayed in the man's hotel.
yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. All right. Anyway,
But
point being, season, the point being, Born Again.
yeah, coming out next year after an election year. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's see. Trying to see if there's any. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's any. Okay, one last thing, then I'll read the comments, then we'll get out of here. Okay, so the other ending of the show, oddly, we another show that has a correlation to Daredevil. We end on a cookout. like a picnic cookout, like family gathering again. Like Maya shows up. It's like, hey, welcome to the cookout. Very much like, hey, there's the Hulk and his son come to the cookout with Daredevil. It's
Mhm.
just kind of like another cookout ending, like that. Little
Hey,
unimaginative, if
hey,
I'm being.
they got it from the one of the best franchises out there, Fast and the Furious.
Oh God. All right. Anyway, okay. So aside from the other cookout ending there, okay. Let's see what else do we got here. A lot of good comments. Just looking past the Friends gag here. Okay, John Kelly says they better have Luke Cage run against Fisk. I swear to Thor. So yeah, that was interesting. Devil's Reign. I forget if it was Devil's Reign when specifically. I think it was.
No, so
Uh,
Devil's Reign is like the story, like it's like sort of a mini crossover.
no,
Not
I read it. I'm just trying to remember if it happened in this story. I think Luke Cage is running against him in that story, right?
I don't know if he run against him or he just kind of took over as
He was,
mayor.
yeah, he was like there was something about like Tony Stark contemplated running for mayor, but Luke Cage was the candidate, and they all read. Everyone likes Luke Cage, so that worked out well.
But considering if like all the Netflix shows are canon, it's like that you went from one mob boss to another.
I know that's the thing. Which I mean, essentially, if the reports are to be believed, that is the case. I mean, my hope, honestly, my hope for Luke Cage has been let's get Mike Coulter between shooting evil, and we'll do heroes for hire. At the very least, we'll drop like you'll have like an established heroes for hire business just exist in the Daredevil show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like imagine, mind you, we're adjusting your expectations on Daredevil because they kind of went back to the drawing board on it. But back when it was supposed to be like kind of like almost a self-contained like 18 episode kind of thing, it is
Yeah.
impossible. It's possible you could have had like certain episodes like feature different Netflix alumni, which is given like the announcement of the Punisher and the speculation on Jessica Jones, that's possible. I mean, in a perfect world, you could have Spider-Man show up, but again, that's not. We don't live in a perfect world, unfortunately. It's not yet. But yeah, let's see. Kingpin, Kogia says Kingpin becoming the mayor could potentially make him a big bad for all the street heroes in the MCU, including Spider-Man. Absolutely. I mean, the big thing. Look, I'm going to be real sad here, guys. Before I untether from this moral coil, I want to see D'Onofrio Kingpin go up against Spider-Man. I got to be honest. I don't know how much time I got
So
left. I
so
want
the,
it to happen.
so the
I want to see
scoop,
it happen.
so the recent murmurs and discussion has been that Spider-Man 4 is going to be like on the level Civil War, but on the street level, and then Kingpin is going to be like a big part of that.
I would love that to happen. I want that. I'm just so worried that it's just going to take so long. I'm not going to see it.
Well, if there's any hope for you, the recent murmurs is that Sony, one of the names that's being considered to for the directorship for Spider-Man 4 is Drew Goddard.
Oh yes, that'd be great.
Yeah, which takes things back to full circle, and
Yes,
if you and I think there's mentions of how like Spider-Man 4 is gonna parallel with like Matt Reeves' The Batman, where like for the Batman, it was like a lot of Batman and very little Bruce Wayne, and for Spider-Man 4, it's gonna be a lot of Spider-Man and very little Peter
that
Parker.
would be great.
Yeah.
Not against Peter Parker, obviously. I'm just saying that we want to see we want to see Spider-Man like doing Spider-Man stuff and go up against the Kingpin, and anyway. Let's see. I'm trying to see if we can cover a lot of that. Okay. Yeah, so Kogi says someone who hasn't yet watched Netflix Daredevil, I was still able to follow along and really enjoy Kingpin's role in Hawkeye and Echo. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's to my look. I know a lot of people have like some discourse over the whole like. Some people really did not like Kingpin's appearance in Hawkeye. I think in part just because we put him in the silly outfit, which I mean I liked it. And the hat was a bit much, but I liked it. Um, but in all seriousness, I mean seriously, when Kingpin showed up with the cane in the purple pants, I just got the Marvel Legends of that for Christmas, by the way, which is like the hat was such a delightful Christmas gift for me. Appropriate given that show takes place during Christmas. I was happy as a clam, man. Just like we finally, that was always my pitch, always what my hope and my pitch was for Kingpin back in this whole Disney Plus era, like and bringing the Kingpin back. It's like let's just do the stuff the residual stuff we didn't do with them in the Netflix show. Just let's put them in the white and purple and give them the cane. And what did we do? We did that.
Mhm.
And the only thing we need to now is give Daredevil those two D's on his chest. That's all we got to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's that's the thing. I think the characters like D'Onofrio. I feel so bad for D'Onofrio because now he's had to go off of Twitter and everything. So the fact that D'Onofrio just can't win because like Feige and company have like a sniper trained on his head, and he's telling people what they really want to hear. Saying, "Look, I'm playing it like it's Daredevil season 4, as far as I'm concerned. That's how he's playing it." He hasn't, with all the edits and everything, and things being scrapped and going back to stage 1 at Daredevil. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's just playing. He's there showing up like I'm playing them the way I play them. I know how to play them best, which is essentially the Netflix Daredevil. Which I mean, that's the right. He's doing the right thing as far as I'm concerned. The only difference is they pad him, make him look even cooler.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So yeah. Let's see. Let's see. Cookie then goes on to say, Kingpin started off Spider-Man villain, so I think him being a villain for the MC Spider-Man film could work. Absolutely. I mean, it's the bucket list thing, man. I guess again that Kingpin going against that Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh god. John Kelling says, I always assumed Fisk was going to meet Vanessa, somewhere tropical for a Christmas getaway in Hawkeye. That is a lovely idea. I never considered. Be nice. All right. Well, I think we should probably wrap it up. I think we kind of gone as far as we can. We went a lot further than I expected, but we had a lot of speculation, which was a long time coming to actually have something to speculate on, at least tangibly. And lo and behold, we did. Rick,
Mhm.
do you have anything you want to say before we thank the folks and get out of here?
I would say for anyone who's interested or like the aspects of the show that focus on Native American heritage and culture, for any of those that have Hulu as a subscription service, I would highly recommend checking out the FX show Reservation Dogs.
Yep.
It was just completed last year. Only 3 seasons, 8 episodes the first season, and 10 episodes for the second and third season. All episodes are half an hour each. It has the actress who plays Bonnie in Echo. Her name is Debbie Jacobs. It's about a group of kids growing up in an native reservation in Oklahoma. So if you like sort of the scenes that focus on Native American culture and life in the past and in modern day Oklahoma, I highly recommend checking out that show. It's a really great drama that has some good comedy and some surreal elements to it. So if you all are interested in the Native American parts and want to explore or go into other TV shows and movies, I would highly recommend checking that out.
All right. I want to thank the lovely folks who gave us a lively conversation. Hopefully, we didn't bore you too much with all of our our deep cut Daredevil fandom here.
Mm-hmm.
Code Geass anime fan, Richard's victims. Sorry, I'm scrolling to make sure I don't miss anyone. The unkillable John Kelling, and Jacob in the comments, running the whole thing, and of course Rohit Dar for showing up.
Mm-hmm.
That'll do it for us tonight as we holster our remotes till the next installment calls for the draw. Just mano a mano, just Plus&Us.
Maya, take the cookies.